muted, Tess, but we don't have to.
Villain, and now they're all of a sudden
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Hey, isn't there an arrow that I can beam across if I want to look at more people, like whenever?
Hey, Adam, Tom is fixing that YouTube link right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
What if more people come and I can't fit them all there? How do I see?
I don't think you do.
Okay, I thought there was an arrow thing there. I don't want to touch something.
Yeah, Mayor, there's an arrow that'll appear on the right side of the screen, and you'll be able to see the rest of the people.
So far, I got everybody on, but
yeah, you don't have enough people to.
Okay, then there's no arrow yet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then should I go back to view all, or are we good?
You're still in gallery.
All right, we're good.
You're still in gallery.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm his tech support.
IT.
All right.
coffee any good, sir? You know what kind that is? 8 o'clock.
No Mr. Alberini or Miss Braymeyer yet?
No.
Okay. There's Terry right there.
What's Brenda Pacino's showing up? What is that?
I don't know.
Did you unmute Terry?
He's got to do it himself, I think, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just making sure we're squared away.
Sure. Yeah, there
Okay,
you go.
we're good. Okay, Miss Braymeyer is the only one I think that's not in so far.
Right. That's the only one.
Joe Fritz.
Yeah, he's there.
You good, Mr. Fritz? Okay.
He's asked you to unmute him there.
Yeah, I pushed the button for him to do so. He has to unmute himself now.
Got it. Thank
Good?
you.
Thank you. I thought you were just giving me the thumbs up or something.
I was pointing at the arrow, the mute button, yes. Ah.
Okay?
Push
Okay.
cat. Push cat, yeah, on there.
Mr. Chairman, your YouTube stream is live.
Oh, there she is. Unmuted.
So is your Spectrum feed is live, Mr.
Oh.
Mayor.
Good.
I want to thank.
Hey, Dave, can you unmute Kathy? I want to talk to him. Talk to her.
Is this you talking, Sue?
Yes,
Who do you want to hear?
Kathy.
Kathy? Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I unmuted her. Wait a minute.
She's not unmuted.
All right, she has to unmute herself
go.
now.
I am now.
She can hear you now. So-
Okay.
Kathy, thank you very much for returning that. I don't know how that got what it is, but please, I appreciate the confidentiality.
Not a problem. It looked important.
So we have no video for John.
I have video here.
It looks like it froze.
Okay, well,
All I'm getting is audio for John.
okay, hold on a second.
I'm a pal.
I think that would have to be on your end, city manager, because I can see Mr. Bariak.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason I'm not seeing him, but as long
I
as
think he's froze, Kenny.
Yeah, you're probably right. I thought he was just sitting really still.
That's the line of the night.
Okay, Miss Splitzer's in, and
Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Okay, I clicked start video and nothing's happening.
Yep.
You had a video. I can see you and I can hear you.
You can?
Yes.
Yes. Don't touch anything.
No, I can't see me.
Hmm.
As long as we can see you, that's all that matters.
Is Mr. Alberini froze too?
No, I'm here, Miss
I
Tessa.
don't think so. Let me see. There's
Oh,
Mr.
There I
Albert.
am.
I don't see Mr. Bariak anymore.
He's going to reboot his.
Okay. Okay, he's down here. Yeah, there's no picture, so I'll have to, all right. Mr. Zimmerman's right there. Ms. Premeyer, Mr. Bariak, let me unmute. Okay. Mr. Bariak, you have to unmute yourself. Terry is good.
Okay,
Adam is
got it.
good. Tess is good. Sandra is good. Mr. Lynch, there's the
Say something to make sure they can hear
Anna, and
Make sure they can hear you.
oh, let me see. There's the law director.
I can hear you
All right.
still.
Can you hear me, Kathy?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like everybody's here. We're ready to go. So I'm gonna first off thank Fairview Acres for my new Zoom gavel that I was given. So advertisement for Tom, I guess. I'm waiting for something from McDonald's so I can advertise them. But all right, we'll call this March 1st regular Newton Falls Council meeting to order. So turn off devices or get to set them to vibrate or mute, and we'll stand for the pledge in a short time of prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
America,
and to the republic
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
For liberty,
Liberty,
justice.
and justice for all.
Okay. Precious Lord, we thank you for just the opportunity to represent not only Newton Falls, but to represent you. I pray, dear Lord, that you would be with us, helping us to be about your business and be about the community of Newton Falls business, and that we would leave here just on the same page together, dear Lord. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right.
Amen.
And if Kathy wants to call the roll call.
Yeah, I think Sandy's still muted there.
Oh, is she? I think she has to unmute herself, I think, because I had her unmuted.
There you go.
Okay. Pletzer,
Here.
Boriak,
Here.
Zimmerman,
Here.
Raymeyer,
Here.
Alberini.
Here.
Okay, if that's everybody, and then under special presentation, I believe we have one for Mr. George. Are we gonna do that now, or?
No, Mr. Chairman, what I'll ask you to do is bring that up under the changes to the agenda, and we can just call that in the regular order.
Okay, let me see where that's at. Changes to the agenda is, where is it? Right after the reports, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
right after reports.
Okay. William George. All right. So, let's see where we at here. Presentation staff. We're under public comments, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with public comments, it's agenda items only. You're gonna need to unmute yourself, give your name, your address, and you'll have 3 minutes. So do we have, I see Brian Kropp up in the top waving. I'm gonna take care of him in a second here. Mr. Kropp, I'm gonna unmute you, and then once you unmute, see if you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, unmute yourself and give your name, your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Brian Kropp, 247 Elizabeth Street, right here in town, right in Newton Falls. I wanted to speak on Ordinance 2021-02. I actually had an opportunity. I tried to call multiple council members and spoke with a couple council members. This is concerning in many ways. I'm going to get into a lot of the details. I'm anxious to hear what Mr. George has to say and what his angle is, what his perspective is, and I hope to hear more about this. And I hope this gets, pushed back or set aside until there's some more information, because this is just to get thrown at everybody without any real talk. And I know we're probably going to hear tonight is let's pass this first and then we'll talk about it, which is ridiculous. That's not how things should work. It should be discussed first. It should be a town hall or a caucus or something along those lines, or multiple ones, because this is a major ordinance. And when I referenced speaking to or attempting to speak to a couple council members, what I was trying to find out was who authored this legislation. I actually tried to speak with my council member, actually both of my council members actually, and I'll address that later in the other comments to share that. So, but what I found out was I haven't found out who authored this legislation. So if someone could please tell me, or if council could speak to this, I'm pretty aware that it doesn't seem that any council members actually authored this legislation. So if someone could show or show some kind of proof that this was actually authored by an actual council member, not a support staff member. And I'll reiterate once again, because this needs said repeatedly and has been dodged and deflected repeatedly as well. Council support staff, and that includes Village Manager Lynch and all the remaining staff members, are not legislators. So I will say this again. You guys are not legislators. You cannot write legislation. You are to help prepare the agenda, which is what Attorney Fritz, Andy's talked about. That they're responsible for preparing the agenda. When I go to a restaurant, the chef, the chef is the person who comes up with the recipe and the menu and those kind of things. Now, the support staff, the sous chefs, and everybody else, they prep stuff. They don't plan the meals. They don't write the recipes. They're not the ones who master all that stuff. That's what they do. They're support staff. So the members of the support staff, and I'll address this again, Mr. Village Manager Lynch, the law director, and also Kathy and Anna, they're support staff. They help and aid the actual elected legislators in writing and preparing, bless you, Sandra, in writing and preparing legislation. They are not permitted legally to write legislation. So I'll just reiterate again, this has never been answered or addressed. Andy's kind of danced around this and never really given a specific answer. And if he answers again that it says something about preparing things on the agenda, that doesn't mean anything about writing legislation. Our charter is very clear about who are the legislators. They are the elected members of council. And there are 6 of them. 5 council members and the mayor are considered legislators. They're the only ones who can submit legislation Village Manager Lynch, Joe Fritz, who's also the parliamentarian, allegedly or accordingly to, whatever, are there to aid and help in that process, not write and submit legislation. So I would challenge any of the council members sitting up here right now, all 5 of you can hear me, and I tried to speak with 3 of you, and 3 of you hung up on me. So like I said, I'll be sharing that a little bit later. 3 of you actually hung up on me. And I'll go into that. And I don't
Mr. Kropp, you have to finish up your time. Okay?
Last thought, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. And I'm fairly aware that the other 3, I don't believe the other 3, Mrs. Spletzer or Mr. Bariak or the mayor actually authored and wrote this legislation. So please, in the sake of honesty and transparency and truth, which you guys talk about all the time but never practice, please someone step up and tell me who authored this legislation. I'll leave it to you guys. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stinson, if you could unmute yourself and give your name, your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Tim Stinson, 253 Arlington. I'd like to speak kind of on the same ordinance, 2021-02. I don't understand. I know it says it's sponsored, but Mr. Kropp brings up a great point of who wrote this. That would be very good to know and to be transparent. Again, we've talked about this over and over again, and we just don't seem to be able to be very transparent with the citizens here. Look, I got a bunch of issues with this. I going back to an article that Mr. Lynch, I believe, wrote or something talking about AMP and all the bad contracts that we've entered into with AMP, and just as far back as or as recent as 2007, we're in a bad contract right now, and this is the reason why we're here, and we're going to sell back to AMP. I just don't understand. They're a nonprofit. They have 8 employees with a salary of over $2 million, well over $2 million for only 8 employees. They built a brand new facility, beautiful building. It was even in our press release that was sent out to the citizens. We helped pay for that building. We have to sell our utility rates back to what we don't use because they force us to purchase more electricity than what we actually use. It's no good. We're selling it back to a loss. I don't trust AMP as far as I could throw them. I don't understand. This is a one-time payment. What are we going to save? And I'm very interested to hear later on in this presentation. Are we selling all of our inventory? Ohio Revised Code 721 in this. Guys, please read that. Let me find it here because you guys don't need to vote on this, but in this ordinance, it says this council determines Chapter 721 of the Ohio Revised Code to not be applicable. So if you guys deem it to be applicable, it's applicable. And Ohio Revised Code 721 means that it has to pass by 2/3 majority, not 3/5. So just so that the citizens understand that 2/3 vote, that's a big line in there that's buried in this ordinance that please pay attention, you guys. It's a one-time $3 million payment. I don't understand. I just don't. What happens to downtime? And, right now, our city does a great job compared to our friends in the township that have Ohio Edison. When they have a major problem, they're down for hours, sometimes days. We're lucky enough that if something blows at one of these substations, our electric department does a fantastic job getting things fixed. I'm super worried about our downtime. We don't really have downtime right now. They're super responsive. We're selling this equipment to them. We're selling lines to them. It's no good. So,
Mr. Stinson, if you could finish up your point, you're out of time.
That's all I have for right now.
Okay, and I'm not sure if it's on your end and Brian Kropp's end, but if you guys could remove your hand from the thing, that way when we get later on, that I know if under the next comments. Okay, all right. And I don't see any other public comments. I don't know if there's anybody else that sees any hands waving.
No, I checked the other screen, Mr. Chairman. There's none on the other screen either.
Okay, thank you. Then we're up to reports now, and we'll start off with the first ward, Mr. Zimmerman, if you have anything to report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the fire board meeting on the 23rd. At the fire board, we accepted, there were 3 promotions. We had promoted to Captain Scott McLeod, promoted to Lieutenant Eric Bauer, another person promoted to Lieutenant Jared Savette, and excuse me if I butcher this name, Tom Toporcher, Toporcer, was also promoted to Lieutenant. We accepted 2 resignations from Bill George, who retired after 26 years, and Michael Woodard moved on from the district. And also Cole McIsaac was appointed as a part-time firefighter EMT to the duty crew. Through February 23rd, there were 263 runs, 200 compared to 250 and 220, so 2020. So you can see slightly higher volume this year. There were 3 fires responded to, 1 structure fire and 2 truck fires out on the turnpike. Just an example of some things that happen while responding to these calls is after responding to one of the truck fires, there was a deer strike on one of our vehicles. So that's just an idea of something else that happens along the way. It's also coming up this week. Tomorrow I'll be attending the zoning board meeting, and on Wednesday we have a quarterly meeting for the Treasury Investment Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boriak, do you have anything for Ward 2?
Yes. I attended the Commerce meeting last week. I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We discussed a lot of things moving forward. There was no representative from the city there, either Mr. Lynch or Mr. Stempert. I don't know there was a lot of information that could have been passed on. Also, I personally went yesterday to Medley to see the water still coming up from the sewers. I was told more work may have to be done. We were going to be doing it in stages. Now, hopefully we don't have to put a lot more money out there, but right now it's being done in steps, and hopefully we don't have to spend any money, because I don't know where we will get the money right now. But I want to let the people know that I did observe it. Maybe Mr. Lynch would like to comment on that as far as coming back and fixing it again and again and whatever. But let's see. And the rest I'll reserve my comments until the meeting.
Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
Yeah, just a couple quick things here. Back when we had our little bit of a snowstorm, I did have quite a few residents calling me about some snow issues on the sidewalks, and I dealt with those just, here in my own ward. And, something I would like to caution maybe the businesses and the homeowners, in our area. We do have a lot of walking people that, even in cold weather, like to just get out and get that breath of fresh air. So I think that it's worth mentioning that, sidewalks need to be kept clear. And then one other thing was, I believe we all received the email from Tim Stinson on the Park and Rec Board. The Commerce Association did reach out to him requesting to do a few upgrades over there at Commerce Park with the, some type of garbage can container holders, something to make it look more aesthetically appealing, and some benches and maybe picnic tables. And Mr. Stinson gave his approval to the Commerce Association to go ahead with their plans for Commerce Park. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Braymire, do you have anything for Ward 4?
Well, the only thing I have, it's a reminder about the Planning and Zoning meeting tomorrow evening, March 2nd at 6 p.m., and it will be a Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alberini, do you have anything at large?
Not that much, Mr. Mayor. I was wanting to reiterate, we have the Lattes and Legislatures events for April 12th. I was just looking to see if the Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce had it posted on their website as yet, and they haven't done so. We expect this to be a pretty good size event showcasing Newton Falls. and also to talk about the autonomous possibilities of the turnpike as well. If anybody from the Newton Township trustees are listening or Braceville Township trustees are listening, I invite you that you probably need to attend, as well as all the business people from Newton Falls and any residents that wish to attend. I'm not sure, Kathy, maybe it'll help me out here. I'm not sure if it's $10 per person for non-sponsorship people.
Typically, it's $10. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So we'd like to invite everybody to come and listen to, I hope I don't butcher this guy's name, Farouk. I think it's Ahmed or something like that. I have to brush up on my Arabic. I'm not there today. Sorry about that. But it should be a great meeting. We're expecting a lot of dignitaries there from Northeastern Ohio. And the last 4 Lattes and Legislatures events, we've had a lot of folks come from all over Ohio, from Columbus, Cleveland, Akron, Canton, showcasing our village. And that'll be it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Musson, do you have anything for the finance?
Your Honor, I do not. My finance director's report is on the agenda for tonight's agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for the finance director?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Spletzer, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to get up and get it off of my other shelf over there. Mrs. Musson, I want to thank you for sending us clarification on the annual report and the reconciliation. And, I can see where the ordinance, I believe it was 2020-11, you took $197,000 on June 19th. No, I'm sorry. I see $265,000 on June 9th, and then another $197,000 on June 19th. And that equaled the $462,000 that council had approved you to remove from the investment boards. Now, my biggest question is, under what ordinance did you remove $500,000 on June 26th? And if there was no ordinance, how were you authorized to make a $500,000 transaction?
All right, to move money on the Treasury Investment Board, that's a motion that's made at these meetings, and the law director concur on the laws and how all that is permitted with the Treasury Investment Board. I'm gonna defer to him on that, but I had a motion, I was directed by the Treasury Investment Board to do so.
Hey, hold on for a second. Mr. Lynch, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, the law director is asking for an opportunity, Mr.
Or okay, Mr. Fritz then.
Yes, the Treasury Investment Board, any transfer of monies is not required to be by ordinance. Ordinances are for the spending of the expenditures. Moving from a checking account to a saving account, moving from Treasury Investment Board in and out, those are done through the Treasury Investment Board, not necessarily going through council. There's reports made. Obviously, there's minutes of taken of that, so council is aware of it, but we do not have to, and we should not need to, do ordinances to transfer money between accounts. The Treasury Investment Board money is like a separate account, even if there's multiple accounts in there. It's money that we are holding that we want to get extra interest on and have money aside for whatever reason council and the city determines they want to save money for. That is not required to be transferred, moved, or done anything with by ordinance. That's done to the Treasury Investment Board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Boriak, did you want to weigh in on this?
Maybe I missed it. I don't remember that being reported by the Treasury Investment Board. Did I miss that, Ms. Munson?
It is reported every time we have a meeting through the minutes.
Where are the minutes at? Did I miss the minutes?
Kathy King has the minutes, so I don't know how that is dispersed. I just do what I am told to do.
They're the council packet, Mr. Chairman.
What's that?
They appear in the council packets right after the meeting.
Okay. Okay. Is that all you have, Mr. Boriak?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to look for it. I didn't see it.
Okay. Does anybody else want to first address to the finance director? Okay. All right. If not, then we'll move on to the.
I want a second.
Ms. Tessa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I want a second because obviously, I don't think council was aware of that $500,000 move that happened on June 26th. And then somehow it magically reappeared back into the Treasury investment on October 8th. So I think that I would like to request the minutes from those meetings or the minutes that created those transactions. We took out $500,000, and I know that's, it's just a number, but when you put it in words, that's $500,000. $500,000 was taken out on June 26th, and $500,000 was put back in on October 8th. I would like to see the minutes to those meetings, and to my knowledge, we've never received minutes from the Treasury Investment Board. We got a one yearly report. In fact, I believe they met last month. Nothing came in our council packet. Minutes have not been disseminated to council. But I would like to request them. And I know if you're going to send them to me, send them to everybody else.
No problem.
So I'd like to see all the minutes from 2020 on the Treasury Investment Board, please.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Sputzer? Okay.
No,
Mr.
that's all
Boriak?
with that one.
Mr. Boriak, did you want a second, or anybody else want an address to the finance director before we move on? Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay. If not, then the law director, if you have anything to report.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the law director?
Yeah. I don't want to make a big issue out of this tonight, but Mr. Fritz wasn't here last week. And the committee thing was taken off the table because it died. What I'd like to know is why, Mr. Fritz, in your opinion, which you opined on, did you not opine on this sooner than March or April of 2019? You let it go on for Mr. Savet. You let it go on for Mr. Zimmerman. What was the reason, sir, that all of a sudden you had an epiphany or a psychic phenomenon to change your opinion?
Mr. Mayor went through, did some research, and when we were going through the committees, brought it to my attention that there was an error. You were through those meetings.
What was that, sir? I didn't hear you.
Mr. Mayor brought to my attention that how we handled it in the summer before, I had to go back and review it because he brought it up, and I wrote my opinion because of that.
You, sir, the committees were brought up on the agenda legally. We passed them. The mayor came in and ran herd and dissolved the committees and said they were done illegally. You sat there by and let the mayor do this. Why?
Mr. Bariak, what I'm talking about now is Mr. Mayor, Mr. Klein brought it to my attention. When he brought to my attention that we had done it before differently is when I went back and reviewed it and found out that I had made a mistake with the previous administration.
Well, sir.
That's in my opinion. It's all written in my opinion. Did you read it, sir?
Excuse me. I wanted to ask one more. Mrs. Sopovich didn't change her opinion, did she, sir?
I can't speak for Ms. Sopkovich, but if you read Ms. Sopkovich's opinion, it has to do with establishing committees. And that's where my error came up, the word establishing.
Oh, you changed the one word because what is establishing a committee? Putting on a different set of people. We do that every January, sir. We establish new committees.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, sir, but you know what I mean? What made your opinion change?
Did you not, sir, did you read my opinion? I was very clear in my opinion that we had a system in place. Let me finish. We had a system in place when Mayor Klein indicated that he went back and found we handling it differently. I went back and verified because it didn't make sense to me. When I went back and reviewed it in detail, found out I had made the error before. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, I know what to tell you.
Everything I just said was in my opinion.
Could I ask you, could it be, sir, that the content of council changed and that's why your opinion changed?
Absolutely.
Would that be a reason, sir?
Absolutely
to let
not.
something go for 2 years? 2 years, sir, you let this go on.
Okay,
It wasn't
Mr.
you were rushed.
Boriak,
I read your opinion, sir.
Mr. Boriak,
You
your
weren't
time,
rushed, sir.
okay, your time is up for the first. Let me see if anybody else has, wants a first to the law director, and then you can have a second if you'd like. Does anybody else want a first address for the law director?
Yes, I have a first.
Okay,
Go ahead, Ms. Tessa.
Ms. Blitzer.
Thank you, Mr. Alberini. My first one is actually a short, simple one. I received an email from the law director on February 10th. And in that email, he told me I had until February 12th to sign an acknowledgement form for an ethics policy. And he said, if you do not sign this Friday, February 12th, I will have to exercise my duties as prosecutor. My question, did the city manager instruct you to write that letter to me?
No.
You wrote this all on your own?
Yes, I wrote that all on my own.
And you feel you have the right to you feel you have the right to threaten me by exercising your duties as the prosecutor because you thought I didn't sign a form?
Let me take these steps since you've asked. I did not know the form was previously signed. For whatever reason, it didn't transfer down. On the verification of those forms, it did not transfer down. So when I wrote you that email on, you said the 10th of February,
That is correct.
I was under the opinion you had not signed that paperwork yet. You can say
I didn't send the one Kathy sent me. I sent the one I got from Anna.
If I may finish. When I sent you that, you can say it was a threat. It was very factual. If I don't specify, I'm not informing counsel. If I'm informing counsel, I'm being condescending or threatening. You can't have it both ways. So if you want information from me, you will get it. If you read that back to me again, you can read that with a different tone of voice, and it's not threatening, it's factual. I have an obligation, if you do not sign that paperwork, and that letter was said as a courtesy to you, to get advance notice that I have to proceed with it. Not a threat.
Okay,
If you do not sign this by Friday, February 12th, 2021, I will have to exercise my duties as prosecutor. That's a threat.
Well, then the next time I won't put that threat in since you view it as a threat, and I'll just take the action necessary.
Even though the paperwork was already on file. I think you owe me an apology for even sending it in the first place. I signed a form in November, and I'm getting a threat from you in February. You owe me an apology.
Well, you can wait for it, ma'am.
Okay, the time is up.
I'd like another address to the law
Okay,
director.
hold on, Mr. Boriak. Mr. Alberini, did you want a first?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm listening.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman or Ms. Braymeyer, do you want a first before I give Mr. Boriak a second?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
Mr. Fritz, I'm not sure right now because I'm getting a little emotional. When you opine on something, first of all, let me clarify. You came out with an opinion that you do not have to give counsel a written opinion unless it's a majority of counsel. When you opine on something, sir, why are we not to have a written opinion on that? You just throw out what you want to throw out? Don't we have a right to know why you're opining? If you opine, that means you're giving giving a legal opinion. Does that not, sir?
If I may answer that question, part of my job is to find issues and report them back to council and write opinions. That is specifically one of my duties. Second of all, sir, it is clear, as I mentioned before, I will write an opinion being directed by a majority of council or if one of these staff members brings something forward and wishes they need some opinion. Those are directed to me by the city manager.
It's in your contract, sir, that you're to help and assist all council members.
Yes.
All right. Then if you're opining, why are we not allowed to get how you based what you opined on? What did you use to base it? Did you just pick it out of thin air?
I believe if you look at my opinion, there's a letter.
I did, sir.
If you look at the line, it indicates why I'm writing the opinion. I believe the most recent one, I don't have it in front of me, but it says something to the effect of, due to some issues that have come up at council meetings, I've been asked to opine on the following. If you look, most of my opinions, and I won't say all, have a ray section that indicate what they're for and how they came about. I usually indicate who asked for the opinion.
Mr. Fritz, when you opine sometimes, you're not asked. You just weigh in when you want to, when it's convenient.
So
all I'm asking for, I don't mind you, wait a minute.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. I don't mind you weighing in, but I would like to know why and what you base your opining on. That's an opinion, sir. Is it not?
It is not. What I'm trying to tell you, and I don't know why you're not understanding something simple like this, and I'm going to try to make it clear. When you use the word just what is convenient, that's not true. Issues arrive to me, and I get informed of them in various stages. I am not there 24/7. Issues pop up as we go through, sometimes at meetings, sometimes with the finance director, sometimes Treasury Investment Board, sometimes with something that the city manager is negotiating. When those come up, they turn to me and ask, what is the legal process? Oftentimes it's an oral opinion. Sometimes it needs to be a written opinion. I don't do it under convenience. If I had my way, I'd never write one because that takes work. No one likes to do work, but my job is my job. When it comes up, I deal with it. It's not convenient, sir. It's when the issue comes up and I address the problem.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, please, sir?
Okay, hold on. Mr. Barrick, your time's up. Mr. Alberini, yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Fritz, since I've been on council, there seems to be confusion on regards to your position when it comes to taking directions from a singular member of council or the whole body of council, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer, in my opinion, that when you are given direction, that you are given direction by the whole body of council instead of the singular members of council, because I've seen what it's done the last 4 or 5 years. You're constantly chasing the wind. So legally, when you are asked to opine, per Mr. Barrick's request, should you not do that at the request of the majority of the council or the one council member?
Specifically, it would be the majority of council, sir. I don't have 6 bosses. I have 2. Council as a majority and the city manager. Those are the
okay,
two that
thank you.
Directive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Law Director.
Is that all you have, Mr. Alberini?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Do you,
Okay. Now I would like to speak.
Hold on for 1 second, Ms. Bletzer. Let me make sure that Mr. Zimmerman and Ms. Braymeyer doesn't want to first by either one of you.
I'm good, sir.
Okay, Ms. Bletzer, you have the floor and your second.
Haven't they both had 2, Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Bletzer hasn't, no. Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Law Director, when you look to giving legal opinions to individuals, I think you need to stick to your portion of the charter. Article 5, Departments, Section 1, Department of Law is you. Says that the Director of Law shall be the chief legal advisor of all offices, departments, and agencies, and of all officers and employees in matters relating to their official powers and duties. I want to point out the only ones that have any power are members of council. And further on down it says, it shall be his duty to perform all services incident to the Department of Law as may be required by statute or by ordinance or by resolution of the council. Now specifically, statute 733.54 says that, yes, the law director, when an officer of a city entertains doubts concerning the law in any matter, before him in his official capacity and desires the opinion of the city director of law, he shall clearly state to the director of law in writing the question upon which the opinion is desired. And thereupon the director of law shall, within a reasonable time, reply orally in writing to such inquiry. Nowhere in anything that I just read does it say it takes a majority of council.
Okay, did you want a response from the law director on that at the time?
If I may.
I think this might be something we need to get a second opinion from.
We've had this conversation twice now. The charter supersedes the ORC. And the charter indicates that the powers, when you talk about public officer or official, council is council as a whole, in other sense, by a majority. They're not 6 individuals that, I don't give individual opinions. No law director does. I give opinions to council, and I give opinions to staff members and department heads and the city manager. I get the directions from staff and department heads via the city manager. So I do opinions as ordered by majority of council and the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, second address, please.
There may be occasions where
let Mr. Fritz
Barr
finish up a little bit, too.
Mr. Barr wants me to research on how to build a bigger tower, and Ms. Braemar wants me to show how to stop a bigger tower. I can't have conflicts, but if council as a whole, as a majority directs me, then I can write an opinion. So there's inherent conflict if I'm allegedly representing each individual. And I don't know how to keep expressing this any differently. A majority of council or city manager. It's always been that way. It's been that way via charter, and that's the methodology used in order to get it. If you can't get 2 other people to ask me for the opinion, you're probably not using the best city time.
Okay, Mr. Alberini, did you want a second?
Yeah, so the verbiage at Ms. Tessa Arash, excuse me. I didn't hear anything about a councilman, councilperson, singular, giving instruction to the city law director. What I did hear 3 words in quotation marks, by the council. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming by the council means by the council as a whole. Is that correct, Mr. Fritz?
That has always been the interpretation, Mr. Alberini.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Alberini?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Zimmerman, Ms. Braemar, before we move on, did you guys have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, Mr. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Given the investment of time we made in these others, no.
Hey, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for the city manager?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
We discussed, sir, we filled the civil service position. When are you going to set up that test, sir? The chief said something about we have to wait for the law director. When are we going to schedule that test? It's been over a year, and that's what the civil service ruled, is a test be given out for the police. Am I asking the wrong person? Should I have asked Mr. Fritz? What takes a year for this?
I got 5 questions on the table. Which would you like?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. When are we going to schedule the test?
As soon as the legal opinion that the police chief talked to you about a couple of days ago, in which Mr. Fritz is going to see if there could be a declaratory judgment to make a determination on that subject.
Mr. Lynch, this was a year ago that we were going to check in with the law director. Why did it die on the vine? Could I have an answer to that, sir?
It did not die on the vine. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to first with the city manager? Okay. If not, do you want a second, Mr. Boriak? If not, we're going to move on.
Okay. I'll save my comments to the agenda.
Okay. The only thing I have 3 small items. The first thing, I want to congratulate the girls basketball team for a fine season. They were knocked off the other night in the district finals. But the thing about it is, unless you're the state champion, your season always ends in defeat. So them losing doesn't change the fact of what a great season they had, especially considering all that our children have went through over the last year to start again, stop again, to have this protection, that protection, and all the things that the children went through. I'm very proud of what the girls accomplished this year. And I'd really like to, once we're able to meet in person, I'd like to see the city manager invite the Lady Tigers and their coaches in so that we could, just show them our appreciation or something like that. So
you can count on that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And then my second bit of information is the boys team. They play tomorrow, and I just want to wish them good luck on their district semifinal game, district semifinal, which will be at home against Waterloo tomorrow, and it'll be again on YouTube and on our cable station. And I just wish them good luck. And then my third bit of information is I got a phone call from one of my neighbors the other day, and I had the opportunity to go with a group in the community and actually sing happy birthday to an individual. It was his 90th birthday, and I'm just really glad there was a nice group there, because if it was me singing and if you had heard my voice, we wouldn't have a little over 4,000 residents. I would have probably pushed half of them away. But the fact of the matter is, his name is Harry Reeder. If anybody knows him, he turned 90. And I was just spoke about this at church the other day, the opportunity to positively touch somebody's life. And I was really thankful to have that opportunity. And he called me today and thanked me for being a part of it. And I was able to, again, see that's the least I can do for an individual, a senior citizen, and all the great things that he's done in his lifetime for my generation. So it was basically a thrill for me, and that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, permission to speak for a second?
Sure.
I also want to commend a young man by the name of Joey Klein. Do you happen to know him?
Sometimes.
Well, he is a Trumbull County Player of the Year. Right. And our Newton Falls coach is also the Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to you as a dad. Congratulations to your wife as well, because we know it takes two. And congratulations to Joey, and congratulations to Coach Sem back as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alberini. All right. Changes to tonight's agenda. I think that this is when we're going to do the recognition for William George, or Bill George, is it not?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the motion would be to add that resolution to the agenda.
Okay.
So move.
All right. So do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, roll call.
Can we discuss this?
Sure.
Just adding it to the agenda. You can discuss it when it comes up in substance.
Well, we're not allowed to discuss it before we vote?
You're voting to add it to the agenda. When it's on the agenda, you can.
Yes, it's not. It's
Thank
not
you.
on the agenda.
If I ask for your opinion, I'll get the law director, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it's not on the agenda.
Sorry, I
right
didn't
now.
ask
This
you,
is,
Mr. Lynch. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's have a roll call to add it, and if it's added to the agenda during discussion, we'll talk about it.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Raymeyer,
Yes.
Alberini,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
All right, it's added to the agenda, and we will add it to the. Want to add it to the beginning of new business, or we should, Miss King? Would you like it at the beginning or the end?
Wherever you want me to do it.
Okay, we'll do it at the very well. Is he here?
He is not here.
Okay, we'll do it at the end then. Okay, so that will be number 7 for William George. All right, so now we are public hearings, and we don't have any unfinished business. If we have a motion that was tabled to for the one-time electric rate discounts for citizens and businesses. Do we need to make a motion to
It's tabled
have
until April 5th.
Is that what it is, April 5th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we skip that then, because it's obviously not April 5th. All right, and that was the only thing under, what's that?
You missed the minutes.
Oh, did I?
Approval of the minutes.
All right. Approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the February 18th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Mr. Alberini. Okay. Any discussion on that?
Nope, they were good this time.
Okay. Roll call.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Braymeyer,
Yes.
Alberini,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Dariak.
Yes.
Okay, so the minutes are approved. And at this time, I would like the record and the minutes to show that I'm using the power of mayor to dissolve all of our committees. And I say this because I have this because they were illegally established. Our committees are invalid based on council rules 121.03, section F, paragraph 1. It states that they are to be done by a vote of total membership of council, and this would include a number of 6, including the mayor. So it would require a minimum vote of 4 to pass this, and it was not done. So our committees would be null and void at this time. This is supported by the 2019 legal opinions of Mr. Fritz and Ms. Slopkovich. And even though Mr. Fritz has changed his legal opinion that he wrote in support of the mayor, I asked if Ms. Slopkovich still stands by her 2019 legal opinion, in which she didn't give a new legal opinion, so we must base her legal opinion on her 2019 legal opinion. So this makes our committees null and void, and I would suggest that we put on the next agenda the need to work together to reform new committees, and that's how I have. We'll move into.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I don't think the mayor has that power to do so, and I would like to hear from the attorney, from Law Director Fritz, if that's with permission, please.
Well, in a moment, it's the same power given in 2019 to the mayor at the time. It's complete recognition. So at this time, I'm not going to ask the law director to weigh in. We're just going to go into new business.
I make a motion to overrule the chair on this one. I'm sorry.
Well, you don't have the floor, so you can't do that. And
I just made a motion to overrule the chair.
Well, I mean, you don't have the floor. And the bottom line is, if there's a problem with what I'm talking about here, and if need be, I'll call the Bar Association and have our law director stand in front of his peers to answer for his inconsistencies on his legal opinions. And that's what we'll end up doing. So if it's not on the next agenda, that's what we'll do. So we're going to go into new business right now.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to, out of due respect, I'm going to ask one more time I'm going to make a motion to overrule the chair, please.
And you don't have the floor to do so.
I don't need the floor to do so.
Sir, Mayor Waddell at the time, when we tried to use Article 14, said he would not accept that motion. That's in the
and that's what I said. Well,
you don't
I'm
have to
not,
accept it either.
Okay, I have the,
We're not
I have
going to
the
do for one
floor.
and not. Excuse
Okay,
me. I'm sorry.
everybody, I'm just going to silence everybody. I'm going to mute everybody because we're going to go into new business. I stated this. It's very clear. If you look, as I stated, I gave the place. Anytime somebody wants to give you an opinion or whatever, state where it comes from, and I said it comes from council rules, everybody take a look at 121.03, section F, paragraph 1. It states very clearly. That would be like me saying that I'm going to give you a citation for going through the school zone, which is 20, 25 mile an hour, and you're going 10. Very clearly, I can't give you a citation for that. We passed these wrongly. We passed them illegally, and I can't allow them to continue. So they're null and void. New business, Ms. King.
Here for a moment, please, sir.
What?
May I be recognized for a moment?
Sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, with the deepest of respect, there are two motions that you do not have authority not to recognize someone on. One is a point of order. Second one is a motion to overrule the chair. You do not have discretion on those, Your Honor, and you can refer to our parliamentarian further if you want to, but the rules of Robert are clear.
Excuse me, Mayor.
I think I have the floor right now, Mr. Bariak.
Yeah, you have it first, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks on that topic.
Okay, well, the bottom line is I looked all this up and I looked at our charter, I looked at the council rules, and I said, we're gonna do things appropriately, we're gonna do right. And what I did is according to council rules. So that's the bottom line. Just like Mr. Waddell, he went by the rules the way it was, and he had legal opinions right there that went right along with it and support it, and so do I.
You can do that. Just the problem is there are two motions that are you have no right not to recognize. One is a point of order. The second one is a motion to overrule the chair. You don't have the legal authority not to recognize that. You may seize the authority you're talking about now as it relates to your opinion, and I respect it very much, sir.
Are you a lawyer?
But
are you a lawyer, sir?
Okay. Well,
let's ask the law director. Are you a lawyer, Mr. Lynch?
Okay, right now we're
moving. You need to mute him, Kenny.
Listen, I'm gonna mute everybody, and we're gonna go under new business, and the only person not gonna be muted is gonna be Ms. King, so she can read the number 1, Ordinance 2021-01. If you could read it, Ms. King.
And, approval and granting consent to the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation authority to apply, maintain, and repair standard longitudinal pavement markings and erect regulatory and warning signs on state highways inside the village corporation limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to remove snow and ice and use snow and ice control material on state highways inside the village corporation limits, and giving consent to the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to perform maintenance and or repair on state highways inside the village corporation.
Thank you, Mrs. King. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to accept this?
Don't move.
Okay, Mr. Alberini, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Brameyer. Discussion.
Yes.
Mr. Bariak.
I would like to have the city manager weigh in when I'm done, but I would like to state that I thought we received salt from the state at no cost. Is that true, Mr. Lynch?
It depends on the circumstances. It's a give and take between Mr. Shaver and the local director of the Ohio Department of Transportation, depending on what they're doing. Some years we get free salt and we do some of the maintenance, and sometimes they do more maintenance and we don't get free salt. It changes year after year.
Is that why this ordinance needs to be done now?
No, it needs to be done now because every year or two, the Department of Transportation asks for us to reaffirm the permission we give them to come into our municipality. Even though it's a state route, they seek permission to actually come into our municipality. The same thing happens frequently when law enforcement that's not from Newton Falls has some other jurisdiction and they want to come into our town, so they talk to our police chief. So it's a very similar thing. It's kind of de rigueur. It's just giving them blessing with holy water, the fact that state trucks will be in our municipal boundaries.
Did you have anything else, sir, Mr. Boriak, on your first? You got a little bit of time left.
No, I did not know we had to renew it every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a first address on this?
I'd like to address.
Okay, Ms. Pletzer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I read this thing several times, and quite honestly, it didn't make very much sense to me at all. And I guess what my question is, the city manager was going to be, and actually I do like the way he's addressed in section 4 as the village city manager. By passing this, can you tell me what we had before and what makes it different? Or are you telling me that it just continues what we've had as the same?
Same.
So by passing this, it keeps everything just the same?
Same. Yes.
Okay, then in section 5, why are we using verbiage that says the city clerk is hereby directed to furnish, all this stuff immediately upon execution. And in section 6, it says this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced at the earliest time allowed. You've done everything using the words without actually putting the word emergency on the front of this piece of legislation. I mean, this thing is still going to have to go through the public hearing, the second reading. This piece of legislation is going to have to take the actual normal course of any other piece of legislation.
That is a very correct statement.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to have a first address on this? Mr. Alberini, Mr. Zimmerman?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman or Brameyer?
No.
Good. Okay, does Mr. Bariak or Ms. Spletzer want a second? Okay, if
No, I'm
not,
good.
roll call.
Brameyer,
Yes.
Alberini,
Yes.
Blitzer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay, passes. All right. If Mrs. King could read ordinance 2021-02.
The Newton Falls Electric Rate Reduction Act, an ordinance authorizing the village to reduce electric rates for all residential and small business customers through a contract or contracts for the transfer of municipal-owned transmission equipment to AMP Transmission, LLC, a subsidiary of American Municipal Power, Inc., AMP, in return for payment.
So move.
Mr. Alberini, does somebody have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Discussion.
Mayor, since I was not made aware of any of this until Friday night after 4:30 when my packet was delivered, I have a number of questions that I feel are pertinent to the whole village of Newton Falls and the people. Now, I would like to have, if I run over a couple minutes, I would like to have the chair let me finish my questions, if that would be all right.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many questions that you have?
Well, it all depends on what the answers I get, but I figure there's about 18.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, you have the floor. You have the floor, Mr. Bariak.
Okay. I want to direct this to the city manager. First of all, sir, why are we selling off the utilities?
We're not.
We're selling off the transmission lines, right?
Selling transmission equipment, that's the limited part of it. It's a very small portion of all our assets. The village of Newton Falls has many millions and millions of dollars worth of electric assets. Less than 0.5% are part of this ordinance. So the answer to your first question is we're not selling off the utilities. We're not selling the electric department, but there is a very tiny portion of it, which is the transmission equipment, and that is the subject of this ordinance.
Oh, excuse me. It says we're leasing the land to, sir, we're leasing the land. How long is that going to be for?
It would be for as long as we are allowing AMP-T to use the transmission equipment.
What is the reason, sir, that are we in debt?
No, sir.
Why all of a sudden, or let me ask the question.
Okay.
How much do we owe AMP?
We don't owe AMP anything, sir. We have a bill that we get for electricity every year, but it's not a debt. It's they send us a bill on a monthly basis for the electricity that we're bringing in.
Wasn't this figured in on the rate study, sir, that we had?
Wasn't figured in on the rate study.
Excuse me. Let me finish your question. Wasn't this figured in on a rate study for us to accommodate this payment?
The payment is going from them to us. Mr. Bariak, so your question confuses me.
It says here that we're going to give you the sole authority. Is hereby authorized to take any action for municipality to fulfill the obligations under the amended agreement. And the agreement says here.
What section are you in, Mr. Bariak, so I can follow?
I'm reading the ordinance, sir, that was given to me.
Right, what section are you in so I can follow along?
Section 1.
Okay, go ahead.
Section 1 says the city manager is authorized to reduce the residential small business rates to the amount that is below rates charged by the local electric suppliers.
Yes.
How much?
Well, my hope is that we're actually the objective is below the regional suppliers, which would be First Energy. Below First Energy.
How much right now are we above First Energy?
It varies from month to month. So we're probably anywhere from 14 cents to 16 cents higher than First Energy, or 0.16, approximately 0.14 to 0.16.
Yeah. Well, sir, in other words, you say you're going to lower it, but how much are you going to lower it, and what will that mean to the residential or commercial customer on the bill?
It would be quite a significant reduction, Councilman Bariak. As I mentioned, below First Energy. So we may see the rates go anywhere in terms of the effective rate from somewhere around 0.15 to 0.12, maybe down to 0.11. So this is a fairly significant increase, maybe in the neighborhood of 20%, something like that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a question for the city manager?
Hey, hold on for 1 second. Mr. Bariak, do you have quite a bit?
I'm not done with my questions.
Okay, do you have quite a bit left?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute. I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, and we'll get right back to you. Let a couple people weigh in, and I'll get back. We'll make sure that we get them questions all asked, though. Mr. Alberini, you wanted it first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things just to reiterate. Mr. Lynch, refresh my memory. We talked about this as early as a couple years ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
About the transmission line. So the fallacy is that the rumor that going around town that we're selling all utilities is completely false.
It's rather silly.
It's rather silly. We're not selling utilities. We're just selling a piece of equipment, basically a transmission line for the most part.
Correct.
For what we know right now is $3 million. I would say probably in the years gone by, some of the things that AMP's a great organization, but I would believe before your tenure here, we got caught into a number of contracts that were very unfruitful for us, including the hydro power contracts that never came to fruition because natural gas prices dropped. So that was a little bit of a pie in the sky. But I would say to the citizens of Newton Falls who are listening right now, this potentially could be a great opportunity to recoup a windfall that you folks have paid into over the years and bring back into the community. And I did talk to my personal resident expert on this type of stuff, and former Mayor Lyle Waddell, as he worked for First Energy, and he gave me Terry's version of this stuff because I can barely change oil in a car. And so after he explained it to me, and this was basically the way it was a couple years ago, if we can recoup several $1 million back from AMP Energy, it's going to be a win-win for the residents of the village of Newton Falls. I had a question asked me by Mrs. Persino, and I kind of thought I would address it tonight. Do you suspect that potential windfall that we get back would go towards the reduction in rates? Is that your goal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, either Mr. Zimmerman, Ms. Braymeyer, or Ms. Fletzer, do you have a first before Mr. Bariak continues?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Just to be clear, just so everyone just to break this down simply, only the main transmission lines, correct? The 69 kilovolt lines that we're talking about, not the whole electric system throughout the entire city, correct?
Yeah, let me clarify that even more if I can to put this in context. Those lines are draped over about 100 electric poles. To put this in perspective, we have north of 1,500 electric poles here in our city. So as you can tell, involving just 100, it's a very small, tiny, fractional piece of the vast mileage of the lines we have throughout our community. So you are correct, sir.
And say there was a power outage in town, we'd be the ones responding to it ourselves, correct? Still.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify that because Mr. Stinson brought up, he's concerned that we're going to lose this great crew. The maintenance of all our lines, non-transmission, is done by Bill George and his crew. The maintenance of the transmission lines after completion of this deal will be Bill George and his crew. And that was one of the key elements of my negotiating with AMT, because as far as I'm concerned, Bill George and his staff are the best in the business. And I want to make sure we maintain them as our fleet directors.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Hey, Ms. Spencer or Ms. Braymeyer, you have anything?
I sure do.
Okay,
I'm going to start with the most obvious thing that just is an absolute violation of the charter. And that is found in section 1, that last sentence that says the city manager is authorized to reduce the residential and small business electric rates to an amount that is below rates charged by the local regional electric suppliers. That is a violation of the city charter. Only council can establish the rates. And I find that in section 3 of the charter, which deals with council. Specifically, it's in section 9 under powers, and it's in alphabetic letter P. Determine and establish all rates and charges. I do not want to see the one power that city council still has as a whole and as a majority. I am not giving away any of my powers as council to one person that's called a city manager. So that's a deal breaker for me, and that's a no. And when it comes to this equipment, I have in front of me 5 pages full of equipment, and ironically, they've all got AMP ID numbers on them. So this tells me you've been working on this for quite some time. And even in the charter, it says you are supposed to keep us up to date and tell us what's going on. And we find out about this at 4 o'clock Friday evening. Actually, I didn't get mine until about 4:45 on Friday evening. You give us less than 72 hours to look at something, digest it, and how long have you been working on it?
Am I recognized, Mr. Chairman? Is that a question for me?
Yes, you have the floor, Mr. Lynch.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Alberini correctly identified the fact that I distributed literature to this community. I think my first written communication about it was somewhere back in November of 2019. I did some other reports to City Council on the floor prior to that time, which is what Councilman Alberini is referring to. And I have had the opportunity to communicate with members of this body regarding as well. I'm prohibited by the executive session laws of the state to go into any further detail. But I have certainly communicated with this body before. This is not a surprise.
Mr. Mayor, I want to address.
Go ahead.
To Mr. Lynch's point, I think probably the 2 council people that were left over from his presentation are probably myself and Mr. Bariak. And I remember us specifically talking about this multiple times. So we were there when it was brought up a couple years ago.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Alberini?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, it's okay. Mr. Zimmerman or Ms. Braemar, do you have anything before Mr. Bariak weighs in with the rest of his questioning?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bariak, did you want a second address to complete your
Yes.
questions? Okay,
Yes.
you have the floor.
I want to know, how much will they charge us to use the transmission lines and other materials we sell?
I recognize, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I anticipate that ultimately that there are a couple of elements to this thing. I'm anticipating that ultimately they will transfer to us cash probably north of $4 million. And in addition to that, transfer to us maybe another couple of $100,000 on an annual basis.
That wasn't my question, sir. My question is, how much?
Can I talk without being interrupted? Is that possible?
Well,
Okay,
will you answer the question I asked, sir?
I have
please?
the floor, do I not, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. As I indicated, they'll be paying us additional dollars for maintenance activities well beyond the cost of our own department. Now, the question specifically is, what will we have to pay to use our own transmission lines? I'm anticipating it will be in the neighborhood of $150 per year for the entire city. $150 per year for the entire city, annually speaking.
Okay, does that answer that? Does that answer that question, Mr. Bariak?
Yes. Will there be a new fee on the bill?
No.
Okay. The other, is all the money going to the electric department for discounts?
Okay, yeah, let me explain that a little bit. The budgetary process in terms of where money gets spent that we take in gets decided by city council. Councilman Bariak asked me this very question a few weeks ago, and that's determined by the budgetary action of this council, which council hasn't taken. In other words, you can't count your chickens before they hatch. Once you have the funds, then you can pass a budgetary matter. It's up to you. It's not up to me to decide that.
Are we going to pay off the debt?
That's my plan. I think that's a great idea. We should pay off the debt. I think we should. It's always a good thing to get rid of debt by using cash. Great idea, Councilman Bariak.
Or are we going to put it in the general fund?
Where the money goes and where it's spent gets determined by, where the money gets spent, like you're saying, Pamphlet, that's up to city council. Where the money initially gets deposited, it goes into the city's account, and then the statute, the law director will have to evaluate by statute where the money ultimately ends up. My general attitude towards this is that I hope that we're in a position where we're putting these funds into the electric department for, as you mentioned, paying off the debt, reducing the rates, things of that nature.
Sir, why has it always been so important that we own and operate our own utilities and now it's not? Why? Let me say one thing. I'm going to show
do I answer the question or not?
Well, yeah, but I want to show something, sir.
Yes.
Here is the fall 2019 Newtonian.
Yes.
And you demonized Amp Ohio, and now we're going to do business with them. You demonize them.
Okay.
What's changed? Why?
Okay. Well, I think you've asked two questions. So am I recognized again, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay. The first question was, isn't it still important that we operate our own utilities? I think I mentioned at the outset of this colloquy that less than 0.5% of our assets are part of this deal. In addition to that, I indicated that the entire rest, that is the entirety of our electric utility system, will still be operated by Bill George and his staff, and the transmission lines that are the 0.5% will be maintained by Bill George and his staff. So the question is it important that we operate our own utility? It absolutely is important, and that's why we're going to be doing that. The second question, which I'll address right now, is Mr. Bariak said, hey, didn't you demonize the people at AMP? And in the literature that came out in November of 2019, and in addition to that, I think Mr. Stinson asked the same question about that. And I guess the answer to that question is, I don't know I would use the word demonized, but I was harshly critical of the fact that we had gotten into these very, very long-term contracts, and that I wanted to corner the folks at AMP so that we could get a little bit of justice done. And I've been reporting back to this council on a regular basis in different newsletters, different communications that we've had, that I've been fighting to do that so that ultimately we could see a reduction in our rates by virtue of our work with AMP. So yes, we have given them a hard time for the way they've behaved, and we are trying to back them into a corner to the point where we can get the benefit of the transmission activity to our financial advantage, as opposed to the financial advantage of AMP-T all the time. And now this legislation has come forward as the fruit of that. So this is, Councilman Bariak, a nice little way to help even the score.
Okay, Mr. Bariak, about how many questions you got left?
I've got just a few more. Who determined that we're getting a fair price for this stuff, sir? Who? What study was done? Who determined this? That we're not getting beat?
Mr. Chairman, can I get recognized again?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Saulville and Associates and MS Consultants are highly technical, great engineering and study firms who have assisted me in this long, bloody negotiation process over the last 18 months. And you have put your imprimatur on the work of Saulville and Associates on many occasions with your vote, Councilman Bariak. And that demonstrates your faith in these experts. And I'm looking forward to reaping the fruits of their expert evaluation that's been right alongside me during this process.
Look, Mr. Lynch, you say what you want to say. I never got anything from Sawtell. I never got any information on as a matter of fact, how can we go about this without Bill George being here? How can we go about when I want to act our elected? I don't know
what the question is, so I don't know if I should be recognized or not, Mr. Chairman. It's up to you to recognize me or not.
I never got any of that information, sir. I'm sorry. You might have been negotiating for 18 months, but I never received any information.
Saulville has provided many reports to this council, and if Mr. Bariak, you're not aware of them or don't remember them, that's okay. But they've provided many reports to this council.
Not since I've been here.
All right, and I've only got a couple more. When service, who is needed for this stuff, if it is needed?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Who pays for it, AMP or us?
I don't understand the question. Who pays for what, sir?
For the upkeep, should they need any upkeep on these, on the Warren Road Station, the Warren Road metering? Who's going to pay for this stuff? The million, all the stuff that we're transferring to them, the Milton metering point?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for that?
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you have the floor.
Not only will the cost of that maintenance be paid by AMP, but they will pay us a premium on top of that for the privilege of allowing our experts, Bill George's staff, to do so. It's rather remarkable.
Okay. How much revenue did the city electric department make last year, sir?
Oh, I don't have the round numbers. I will defer to the finance director on that. Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I ask to defer to her?
No, go ahead. We'd like the information.
Yeah. Anna, I don't know if you have it at your fingertips. If not, if maybe you can provide it by the end of the meeting. I know you've got to go into your you've got to go into your balance sheet. So, Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I defer that to when it comes up? She'll be able to.
Yeah, that would be good.
Thank you.
Mr. Boriak, did you have anything else?
Yes. I'd like to, until I get some answers and I get some stuff on paper, I would like to propose, first of all, I'd like to hear from Mr. Bill George. He's not here tonight. I talked to Mr. Bill George and he said he wasn't asked to be here tonight. I'd like to hear from Mr. George. I'd like to know what his input on this is. I, in my heart, cannot approve something I don't know anything about. It's been gunned down my throat. If I just hear what's been told to me, I'm one of the ones from Missouri. Show me.
All right.
Now,
I don't know. I was going to ask to be recognized in response to that. I don't know if he's done with his question or not.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
I'm gonna make a statement and then I'm gonna do something.
I would like an address.
All right. Well, okay. All right. Well, let me say this. This contract gives you the sole authority to do anything with this contract. The circumstances of council has no right to back off or question whatever you do. Is that right, Mr. Lynch?
No.
It says here, sir, let me read this. The city manager is authorized to take any action necessary. Section 2, sir. Any action necessary for a municipality to fulfill its obligation under the aforementioned agreements. And the other, in Section 1, it says you have the right, city manager authorized to reduce the residential and small business rates in the amount that is below rates charged by local regional electric suppliers. I asked how much. I didn't get a set figure, whether it's going to be this or that. I didn't see a study. I didn't see the figure, the paperwork, where it's all I heard is, well, this company was involved or that company was involved. I don't have anything to know that we're getting a bad deal or good deal. I want to put a motion on the floor tonight to table this and have a workshop and then a public meeting so we and the public know more about this.
Okay. Well, let me see if there's anybody else that wants to weigh in on this before we get to that.
I will put that when the time comes, sir.
All right. Ms. Bletzer, did you want your second?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, some of what Mr. Boriak was just saying were also some extremely alarming concerns that I have. I find that it's a really ambiguously written piece of legislation. You know, I can go back up to the last wherefore as paragraph, and it says of the aforementioned equipment and achieve municipalities' reliability and other goals. What other goals? I mean, you know, this happens to be the most ambiguously written piece of legislation I've ever seen. It just leaves the door open with other goals, letting the city manager set the rates, and then just throwing Chapter 721 out the door.
Mayor Klein, I asked for permission the first time, and I wasn't given the full time. I let everybody. I would like to have a second address, sir.
This is your.
Yeah, you actually had to, Mr. Boriak.
Would I be permitted to speak on this one more time, sir? The chair has that authority.
If it's brief, once Mrs. Spletzer is done, and let me see if Mr. Zimmerman has anything or Ms. Braymeyer has anything. Okay, Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything else?
No, other than, you know, I'm just finding out tonight that this is something the city manager has been working on for 18 months. I finally got put into my council seat on December 21st. I've never heard a peep about it. Two and a half months has gone by, and according to the charter and according to his contract, he's supposed to be keeping council updated in detail. In 2.5 months, I get this thrown in my face. Here, you get this Friday at 5 o'clock, and you get less than 72 hours to make a decision. That's all I have.
Mr. Zimmerman, did you have anything?
Yes, sir. I hate to borrow words from Mr. Bariak all the time, but people have been asking me, what is there a guarantee? Throw this word guarantee out there. So as far as a rate reduction, would there be a rate reduction involved? Can you guarantee that there's a sizable length to this rate reduction that people would see in their electric bill?
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Lynch, you have the floor.
Yes. Answer is absolutely yes.
Give us numbers.
I
Yes.
discussed that with Councilman Bariak before.
Mr. Zimmerman, does that answer your question, or do
That
you
answers the
want
question. And just
details?
one more thing real quick is that
Yes.
this is also just a first reading of this, correct? We are not voting to pass anything. This is just
That's
to
correct.
pass the first reading of this legislation so
Yes.
that there is time to talk about it, discuss it, have it on the floor, have workshops,
Yep.
and town hall meetings, anything we deem necessary in order to make influence decisions, well thought out decisions based on this project.
Yes, in fact, Mr. Chairman, I'd be recognized to answer that question.
Yes.
Yes, before this council meeting started, I sent a meeting notice for a town hall on this subject to be conducted on the date of March 8th at 6 p.m. All members of this city council were sent this. The mayor and I talked about it briefly. I don't know, Ken, maybe it was about an hour before the meeting started. I don't remember. But that is set for March 8th at 6 p.m. for a town hall meeting.
And just so there's no confusion, there's nothing being passed tonight other than the first reading of this ordinance.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ms. Braymeyer, did you have anything, or Mr. Alberini, before I let Mr. Boriak finish up here?
Mr. Mayor, I would respectfully call the vote, sir.
Okay, the only thing is, with something this important, I wanted to give room to extend for each of the council
Seconded.
people. Well, you didn't even hear what I finished saying. We're not going for the vote yet. Because something like this, we don't need to pound down people's throats. These are all questions, if they were asked by Mr. Alberini, Ms. Braymeyer, Ms. Zimmerman, or if it's Mr. Boriak, I think a lot of people would like the answer to these questions. And so I don't think there's a rush. I don't think our hair's on fire or anything. So if you guys don't have anything else, I'm going to give Mr. Boriak the floor to let him finish up. Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
What's beyond fathom, I can't fathom, is that why would any of these council people pass something without having the full information in front of them? Why don't we table it, have the work session, get everybody on the same page, and let's see this big rate reduction before we start piecing off our utilities. I've been here 70 years, 71 years. And I've never heard anything that we've always prided ourselves on keeping our own utilities. I haven't had anybody say anything about what we're going to do, how much, where the money's going to go, this and that. Everything's, well, it's up to this, it's up to that. I have had nothing concrete, and I haven't had Mr. Bill George here. And anyone that votes for this tonight, you will stand by your vote. Because when you vote for something you don't know what you're doing, means you haven't done your homework. I'm going to put a motion on it. We table this until we have a workshop and let everybody come on here. And I'm not really worried about March 6th because really we're still under Zoom.
March 8th. Mr. Chairman, you have a superseding motion for a call of the roll prior to Mr. Bariak.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's final point that I'm going to make. I don't get a vote on this, and this might be a good deal. It might not be a good deal. I don't know. It might be the greatest thing ever. And it might bring us tons of money and jobs, and it might be something where we get a few bucks, and then down the road here, we leave our children with a mess. And the fact of the matter is, yesterday I went to my granddaughter's birthday party, and I got to buy her some Barbies and a Barbie house and stuff like that. But the one thing I would hope that I wouldn't give her would be a big mess in the future. And for that being said, and that's why I said, and that's why I extended Mr. Boriak's time, and anybody else, I really keep track of the time, because there's a lot of, I've had these same questions asked to me, and I have a suggestion, one or two things, and then we can go into the roll. One suggestion is that we don't do like our federal government does and pass the bill and then find out what's in it. That we actually maybe vote no, and we don't move forward to the second thing. And it gives you time to look the contract out for yourself, and if you think it's a good idea, you can reintroduce it. That's one thought. And the other one is that we table it until there is at least 2 town hall meetings and a caucus on this. I don't see, maybe it's a good deal. Maybe it is. You know, I'm not a genius on this, but I would really like to see us do our diligence. So that's all I have to say. So roll call.
What are we voting on, sir? What's the motion?
First, it's just a first reading, Mr. Chairman.
How would you go about it? I'll ask the law director, how would you go about, would you vote on the first reading, or would you vote to see if we can table it? What would you do?
I think my motion was first.
And I'm not, I'll ask again, you know, how, if he made the motion, he might have when he was talking, you know, there was not a second. How do we handle this problem?
Mr. Mayor, I made the motion to pass it, and I think Mr. Zimmerman may second that motion respectfully.
The only motion on the floor is the motion to yes or no on 21-2002.
Okay. All right. Well, then call for the roll call.
Alberini?
Yes.
Pletzer?
No.
Bariak?
No.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Raymeyer?
Yes.
Okay, first reading passes. All right. Number 3 is Resolution 10-2021. If Mrs. King could read it.
A resolution authorizing all actions necessary to apply for and accept the Ohio Department of Natural Resources State of Ohio Nature Works Grant for handicap accessible playground equipment.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So move.
Okay, Strawberry. Do we have a second?
Second.
Raymeyer, any discussion?
I have a few questions.
Okay, Ms. Butzer, you have the floor.
I feel that this is a somewhat misleading piece of legislation because the word grant is used in the title, and then the actual verbiage down in the paragraph, section 1, uses the words financial assistance, section 2 uses the word funding assistance, section 3 uses the words obligate to the funds required to satisfactorily complete the project. So I find this to be somewhat of a confusing piece of legislation. It's called a grant in the title, but then throughout the body of this, it obviously says that we're going to be getting some of our money involved into it as well. I'd like to have somebody clear that up.
I think Ms. Musson is trying to.
Ms. Musson?
She's waving her hand, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I didn't see
She doesn't
that.
have a blue hand. She has a normal human
Okay,
style hand.
can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself?
She's trying, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Your Honor and all members of council, this is a resolution to apply for a grant. It is a state grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The language is requirement of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. This is a typical template. This resolution we pass every year when we do a grant application. The grant is typically due by June 1st. This is to add our existing playground equipment, but this time is to actually enhance it to make it ADA accessible. We're actually doing handicap equipment this time. Approximately the amount of the grant is going to be 75% and then 25% is the local match. Approximate cost of the playground equipment is $75,000. This has gone to the City of Newton Falls Parks and Recreation Committee, and the committee has had several meetings about the playground equipment, and they did make a motion after a meeting to apply for the grant. So that is what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do you have anything
I'm
else,
sorry,
Ms.
Anna.
Spencer?
Yeah, I missed the numbers okay, I understand it's a grant, and I heard the number of 75,000.
Correct. It's in the appropriation budget. It's in your pink budget books or whatever color book you got for 2021. It's in the Park and Recreation Fund, which is Fund 204. And we're going to be, the grand total amount of the project is approximately $75,000.
And how much is Newton Falls contributing?
Approximately 25%.
Thank you.
About 15, 20,000, somewhere near about
Lord,
17,000.
it depends on the grant, and they may come back and ask us to revise it.
Okay.
So it just depends on how many applicants there are, and how much grant money we will get. We're going to ask for the max that we can get.
Okay. Does anybody else have an address or want an address here?
Yeah, I'll have an address, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Miss
Okay,
Ann, I got to
good.
congratulate you. A couple years ago, you got the previous grant to put in playground equipment over there. And this is just another awesome win for the Village of Newton Falls. And of course, the mayor, I'll tell you what, by the time you're done, Ken, you may have a whole new park over there by your house.
Yeah, I know, it's nice looking out my front window.
Maybe the poll's coming next. You never know. So thank you, Anna. Good job. Good job.
Okay, anybody else?
That would be nice, though, wouldn't it?
Anybody else want an address on this?
Just a quick question. If this, does the city have to put up money first and then it's reimbursed with the grant? Say, I mean, if a grant doesn't come through, do we have to have the playground equipment purchased first in order to have the grant accessible to us? Or is this all dependent on us receiving the grant as far as moving forward with the purchase of this equipment?
It is all contingent upon receiving the grant. So we will apply June 1st. We typically hear around August or September. We will not proceed unless we know we got the grant first.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Braymeyer, would you like an address?
No.
Okay, Mr. Bariak, did you want an address?
No.
Okay, if nobody else wants a second, then we're going to move forward with the roll.
Blitzer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Braymeyer,
Yes.
Alberini.
Yes.
Okay, was that only three?
No, that was all of them. They were all
Okay.
yeses.
Okay, resolution passes. Okay, if Ms. King can read, Resolution 11-2021.
A resolution of appreciation and recognition to Karen Rutan for her unselfish actions and commitment to the residents of the city of Newton Falls and the surrounding community.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ms. Fletcher, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
The only thing I'd like to say, Mr. Mayor, is that I wrote this piece of legislation after sitting through the last city council meeting and seeing that, believe it or not, my very first computer teacher, Mrs. Benitez, was having to get somebody to come to her house and give her assistance to get, logged into Zoom and participate with our business via Zoom, so that she was able to be present to have her husband honored. So I felt that was something that definitely needed to be acknowledged and recognized. And Karen does a lot in our community, and she does stay very active with what we like to call our active agers. So I just wanted to make sure that she got recognized.
Okay, anybody else? All right, well, if nobody else, then we'll call for the roll.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Braymeyer,
No.
Alberini,
Yes.
Blitzer.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes, and since it's passed, I just wanted to weigh in here and thank Mrs. Rutan for, as Ms. Spetzer said, many, many, many really good things that she does. That I think individuals like this, is really what defines our community, that you go above and beyond, and what it does is really encourages more people to step up, and that's, why we have so many great people in our community. So thank you very much, Mr. Rutan. Okay, so number 5, if Mrs. King wants to read.
Sure. Motion to acknowledge the Finance Director report for the month of January and attachments as presented.
I have a question on this before we make the motion. I'm curious of why there's a different terminology here, why it says acknowledge and not accept. Is that a misprint, or is there a reason behind that?
Oh, that was probably me. No.
Okay, so it should be accept then, basically?
I'm not sure that the council has to accept a report. They just have to acknowledge receiving a report.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I looked at the past month thinking that I lost my mind. Is it always like that? It's usually
No, I think I lost mine, obviously. I put the wrong word there, but
all right. Okay, well, thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, Ms. Spetzer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The one thing that drew my attention again was the investment balances. The numbers that I was referring to earlier were given to us through an email, and the information on that was updated as of February 5th of 2021 at 12:44 in the afternoon. And the information that we're being given as of the close of the books at the end of January, specifically in just the investment accounts, the USB primary and the UBS CAM, I'm showing a difference of $294,809.50. And I'm looking at like 5 days. Where did $294,809.50 go in 5 days?
All right, in my finance director's report for period 1, it just provides the beginning monthly balance as it was at the end of December 31st. On my report, it's the graph with the pie, and it shows all the bank balances. It will show a month-to-date bank report, year 2021, month 1, and it lists all the bank accounts. So this is a report as of January the 31st, 2021. So the beginning balance would have been as of December the 31st, and then the ending balance is at the end of the month. So I will have to get back to you in detail of what from the annual report to this, because there could have been some changes from that report to this report. Most of it is dealing with the market conditions. Typically, that is what involves with that. We definitely deal with in Treasury. Our main account is mostly Treasury bills, and we have what's called an inverted yield curve. So most of that has to do with our market conditions. But I will do a complete analysis, and I'll be more than happy to provide that and email all of the difference and your question in detail to all members of council. I will get
okay, because $294,809.50 is quite a significant difference between numbers that I'm seeing that I was given that I had been given within really only a 5-day period of time, in 5 days.
Okay, is that all you have, Ms. Spetzer? Are you waiting?
Yes, Mr. Klein, thank you.
Okay.
I'll wait for more information later. That usually helps.
Okay, thank you. Does somebody else have an address here on this? Okay, if not, if we could call for the roll.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Braymeyer,
Yes.
Alberini,
Yes.
Blitzer,
No, I'm gonna wait for more information.
Bariak.
No.
Okay, motion passes.
Mayor,
Yes.
I had a motion. I thought it was on the other page to
It's on the
schedule.
last page.
Yeah, for the Scott
Oh,
Street.
I'm sorry. I see
you-
it now.
Okay.
I see
All
it
right.
now.
Okay, that's what we're on here. If Mrs. King, if you could read the motion for the town hall meeting.
A motion to have a town hall meeting on April 15th, 2021 at 6 PM to discuss the Scott Street Sewer Project, all to be invited.
Okay, do we have somebody to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Who is that?
I second.
Okay, Ms.
Spletzer
Spletzer.
second.
Okay, before I ask for any info on this, any discussion, I see open to all. So I'm assuming this is in person, and I would like to see if Mr. Lynch could weigh in on this.
Well, as I think you and I had a chat about this earlier today, and members of council, in fact, I think the mayor's looking this as a methodology for me to illuminate our general attitude towards this building. We are anticipating opening our building open to the public beginning in April, and we will accommodate folks coming into the building for the purposes of all our meetings going forward in April. We'll also comply with some of the details of the health department, but I was speaking to the law director today, and some of the ideas that the mayor presented to us about ways we can accommodate members of the public, Weatherfield is now starting to do. No reason why we can't. So the answer to your question, Mr. Mayor, is that if this meeting goes forward on April 15th, and I'd like to chat about that as part of this motion, but if it were to go forward on the 15th, we would do it in this building.
Okay, and so I would have to assume then that we would be able to, on our first April meeting, have our council meeting in person also.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
then-
just said.
And then the last thing that I have there is
Oh,
I've
wait
had
a
a lot of people in the community ask me about different things that were held. I'm not sure what all of them are. I don't know if there was an exercise class for senior citizens or something or other. I'm not sure, but somebody had asked me about that at that point in time. Would they be able to social distance and hold some of their events that the people in the community hold?
Yeah,
Okay.
all those, when we locked down this building, all those ended. So as of April, we'd reopen again. I think it wasn't just the exercise and yoga folks. I think also the Boy Scouts, AA, and Mayor, I think there are one or two other groups that would all have the opportunity again. So the answer is yes.
Good. I'm good. Is there any discussion? Anybody else have any? Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
Mr. Lynch, you said that you wanted to go ahead with the Scott Street Sewer Project by July or August. Didn't you state that, sir?
Are you talking about this year or next year, Mr. Bariak?
All right, let me ask you this. How long is the Eastgate grant good for?
The folks over at OPWC who make a determination as it relates to the grant have indicated that the grant is forthcoming in 2022. So this is a 2022 project, not a 2021 project.
Okay. Well, then, have you contacted the township trustees about this, sir, or the commissioners?
Of course.
When did you do that, sir?
Boy, I was in front of the commissioners several months ago, and as a result of that, we gave them the Friends of the River Award to all three commissioners because they voted unanimously. In addition to that, I've communicated with the different trustees. In fact, only a few days ago, I spoke with Pete Augusta, the chairperson of the Township Trustees, who reiterated the unanimous, energetic support for this project by the township. And I spoke to Commissioner Fuda just a couple of days ago as well.
Well, look, here's where I'm at. I'm all for helping everybody out. The township has a lot of questions, Mr. Augusta. I talked to Mr. Augusta. He wants his town hall meeting. They'll go along with anything as long as they don't have to pay for it. And the commissioners aren't going to give us any help. Are you willing to put this on the taxpayer of Newton Falls?
No.
You have said, sir, excuse me, you have said it would, and Mr. Zimmerman has said it will be of no cost to the taxpayer. How do you propose doing that, sir?
There are various funding sources. The OPWC has approved a record amount of funding for this. In fact, even more so than the previous time the OPWC voted on this. So it's a record amount. In addition to that, I anticipate additional revenue sources coming from the Environmental Protection Agency. And then, of course, it's supported by the rates. The people that are using the sewer actually pay a rate the same way you do from your residents right now.
They're very concerned, sir, that the people up there cannot afford to pay. We went through this before, and they couldn't afford to pay $30 a head because of the number of people, sir, because there's no water. Now, what I'm saying is, why are we going to go ahead and stick our nose out there in the township when we can't keep our own people here? We have Artesian. We have other places in this community, Medley, that we can't take care of. Kendall Avenue, Pennsylvania, Diamond Street off of Russell, that don't have our utilities yet.
Mr. Boriak, do you want Mr. Lynch to weigh in on that? If not, I'm going to
make a statement first. I'm going to ask him, why, sir, are we sticking our nose out into the township? For what reason, sir?
Okay, Mr. Lynch, you have the floor.
I recognized?
Yes, you have the floor, and then I'm going to see if somebody else wants the first address.
Mr. Chairman, there are two parts to my response. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like you to indulge me because I'm going to give the first half of the response, and then I'm going to defer to the law director because there's a legal issue related to this as well. So let me get to the first half. The city of Newton Falls has a wastewater treatment plant, and the Scott Street effluent from these various homes was determined by a judge of the Common Pleas Court under order of contempt of court that if they did not connect to the Newton Falls wastewater treatment plant, and the order from the judge was very specific, if they did not connect to the Newton Falls wastewater treatment plant, then the county would be in violation of the judge's court order. So it's extremely related to us because we're part of that judge's order. The second piece related to the first half is the reason the judge issued that order is that the Environmental Protection Agency indicated that it was an environmental hazard, severely hazardous to the health of Newton Falls residents and people in the region because of the disgusting fecal matter being dumped into the river adjacent to the homes of folks of Newton Falls and folks of Newton Falls that fish in the river. Councilman Alberini is in that river fishing all the time. So it is of urgency, according to the EPA, that we protect our residents. And I'm delighted to see this coming together of government agencies to achieve that. And now I'll defer to the law director on the legal question.
Okay, you have the floor, Mr. Fritz.
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm not sure why we're having a conversation that goes into why, and how, when the motion is to have a simple meeting. None of this seems relevant at all. We are having a motion to schedule a meeting, and we're trying to analyze whether or not we should be doing it and what the legal aspects are. I guess I will say this to answer Mr. Lynch. It is correct. There's a Common Pleas Court case. The city is part of that. We have requirements based upon that, and everything he said regarding that case is indeed true.
Okay. Somebody else have an address on this?
No, Mr. Mayor, I would call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, I would have one thing to say specifically about
point of order, Terry.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Lynch, did you have
a question, sir?
All right, everybody.
Did you call a question, Mr. Alberini?
No, you better check your hearing, John.
Mr. Lynch, did you have something?
Well, what are you saying we ought to call the vote for?
Hold on, Mr. Boriak.
What gives you that authority, sir, to call the vote?
I got it under control here.
The mayor calls the vote, Mr. Alberini.
You better mute him, Kenny.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute everybody. Then I'm gonna go downstairs and get something to eat.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Lynch, did you have something?
Yes, members of City Council, this project has been pushed back to 2022 by virtue of the fact that the OPWC has issued a directive to me that they've guaranteed the funds we're going to receive in 2022. Now, in order to get additional funding for that project, I have to work with the EPA to get additional funding. And I'm also looking for additional federal grants, but I won't know the answer to any of those questions till the end of 2021. So I'm asking you to vote no on the motion, because if we have a town hall in April, I'm just going to have to give everybody a bunch of dumb looks, because I won't have the answers to the sources of the rest of the funding until the end of 2021. And I assure this council, I will convene that town hall when I get those answers, because I want to tell Councilman Bariak exactly what the other funding sources, how much are, and how much the residents of the township would pay as part of the rate. And also to make sure that we're not paying anything. And I assure you, the objective is for Newton Falls residents to pay nothing, because we have to protect the river. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Please vote no on the motion.
Okay, any addresses before we call for a roll?
Yeah, I want to say this. You know, look, Mr. Lynch should, can have his input, but we make the determination. I've sworn to protect the taxpayer. Here's another case of when if we get this and if we get that. But I know one thing, with the $2 million or whatever little chump change they're throwing for selling our electric department away, we'll probably have the money to help and do everybody else's. Now, the people that they're Friends of the River, the engineer, Mr. White, Randy Smith, he's no longer on there. Mr. Polifka's been beat. Why don't we have the other commissioners come down here and just say, where is this going, so we can nip it in the bud, and let the trustees, let them weigh in and let everybody get their opinion, and let him know, Mr. Lynch know about the Friends of the River. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Ms. Bletzer, did you have something?
Let's do something above board once in a while, instead of.
Did you have something, Ms. Bletzer, before we vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think this should be some type of a meeting which we would consider perhaps organizational. First of all, I don't see why the city of Newton Falls is getting involved in the first place. To me, it's a county problem, it's a township problem, and those two entities should be dealing with it. But we've got a city manager saying that he's going to be the one responsible for finding all the funding. So I think we need to have a meeting to find out who's going to take care of what. Let's establish some guidelines. Let's establish some parameters. And then, let's give everybody each piece of their pie and tell them to do their job. I don't know why we're even involved in it.
Okay, wait, hold on. Are you done, Ms. Bletzer?
I'm done.
Thank you.
Mr. Alberini.
Thank you. I'm gonna just make a comment, and then Mr. Mayor, you can proceed accordingly if you want to. This is our drinking water, folks. It's plain and simple. And the motion is about what Ms. Fletcher just said about setting up a town hall meeting to cover all these issues. So we're overthinking here a simple motion. And I think Mr. Barnick made the motion to proceed. Ms. Fletcher seconded it. Let's rock and roll.
Okay, if everybody's discussed, and let's go ahead and call for the roll.
Real quick comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Zimmerman.
We heard earlier in this meeting today about cleaning up Commerce Park. Commerce Park is downstream from where all this fecal matter is flowing into the river. Do we really want this coming into this area that we're trying to brighten up, trying to make more appealing to everybody, that knowing that upstream we still have this fecal matter flowing into the river? A clean river is everyone's responsibility. It's not the people in the township, not people above where it's coming in, not people where it's below where it's coming in. It's everybody's responsibility. I would hope that we might have a town hall meeting when there is something to present. If there's nothing to present at this time, I just do not see the point in having a meeting where we sit there and just look at each other and say, we can't answer anybody's questions at this time. Thank you for coming. So I just would hope that we would get a meeting together when there is something to present. Thank you.
Okay, if Ms. Braymeyer doesn't have anything,
No,
Yes,
I
no.
don't.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and call for the roll.
Raymeyer,
No.
Alberini,
Yes.
Splitzer,
Yes.
Splitzer.
I said
Bariak.
yes.
Yes.
I got hers. Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
No.
Okay, the motion passes to have a town hall meeting on April 15th at 6 o'clock to discuss the Scott Street sewer project. All invited. Mrs. King, if you could read the, what is it, a resolution for Mr. George?
resolution. Yes, 12-2021, a resolution of appreciation and recognition to William George for his years of service to the Newton Falls Joint Fire District.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, was that Ms. Splitzer?
Second, I'll second.
Okay,
I think it was me and Mr. Alberini tied.
Okay.
Ladies first.
All right, do we have
Thank you.
any discussion on this?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bariak?
I don't know what the reason is that we're rushing into this. I would like to personally shake his hand and hand him that proclamation and get a picture with him. I don't know why we're doing it tonight. I feel the man deserves to have his picture taken and deserves a recognition, not only for his service to the fire department, but everything else he's done for the community. And I like that on a personal basis. He's not even here tonight to get it.
Okay, anybody else? Any discussion on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I congratulate Bill George. I met him at Warren Township years ago when he was an EMT firefighter. Outstanding individual. His nickname is Short Arms for anybody who sees me on Facebook with him. But you know what, John, to your point, maybe he doesn't want his picture taken with us. Who knows? I have to ask him that. But, he may not want to take it with me. I don't know, or you. So, but I'm not opposed to buying the guy a cake or something like that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would anybody else like an address?
I would just like to say that I really think that Mr. George has been an absolutely tremendous asset to this town, and everything that he has done, be it on the fire board, the electric department, or working with the road crew to clear the roads. Mr. George just must be the Energizer bunny that runs those good batteries, because that man just goes and never quits. And he is appreciated.
All right, anybody else?
Just want to thank Mr. George for all of his many years of time and service.
Okay, any other addresses? Okay, he might be watching, so I just wanted to throw something out there too and thank him for all of his service. He's an individual that I don't know, it seems like anybody in the community has anything going on, he's the first to jump in even off the clock. I mean, he's just a good individual. And a question I have is if this passes tonight, if we could note something to whenever we open the building up, if we could have something there put down where we could get a picture with him, and like Terry said, a cake. Unless he wants to do it while we're still on Zoom, and you can come in my room here, Mr. George.
Mayor, I can arrange for him to come in April to put his arm around everybody.
Okay.
I'll make those arrangements.
Okay, well, if nobody else has anything else, we'll go ahead and call for the rolls. Or
Alberini,
Yes.
Splitzer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Raymeyer.
Yes.
all right, resolution passes, and hopefully the city manager can make a note to that we can give him his due diligence there. Public comments. The second set of public comments here are open to any topic. So I see that I have Mr. Crop, and I'm going to go ahead and click on here, and then you'll unmute yourself and you give your name, address. You have 3 minutes. So we good there?
I think I'm good now. It took me a second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brian Crop, 247 Elizabeth Street. I'll try not to run over Mr. Mayor, but I would ask if if I do, I would like to finish my discussion. So I mentioned earlier that before this meeting, I actually tried to reach out to both of my council members and even one council member who doesn't represent me in my ward. And I would like to play for you the phone calls, the 3 phone calls that I made this afternoon. I see Mr. Albertini. Looks like Mr. Albertini left. I don't know where he went. He's gone. But I called my councilman, Mr. Adam Zimmerman. I wanted to ask him a very specific question about the legislation tonight, the 2021, the ordinance for the AMP-T sales. I wanted to ask who authored the legislation. I wanted to ask him specifically if he authored the legislation himself. So I'm going to let you guys listen to what he had to say.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that,
Mr. Chairman, could you please mute David so I'm not interrupted rudely while I'm in the middle of trying to present information during my public comment section? He had his time. I don't know why he's still a host in this meeting. Sir, you are the mayor. I would ask that you mute him so I can finish without being interrupted, please.
Okay, just continue on.
Thank you, sir.
You can't play a phone recording in Ohio, Mr. Chairman.
It's a one-party state, sir. You are not an attorney. As a matter of fact, I think you resigned your law license because you had disciplinary action pending. So please be quiet and let me finish. It's a one-party state, sir. He answered his phone just like the other 2 answered their phones. So if you don't want me to play phone calls, don't answer your phone. It's a one-party state. You're an attorney. You should know that. Joe, I see you're sitting here not saying anything. You guys know it's a one-party state. And Adam answered his phone. Terry answered his phone.
It is. Just proceed.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Zimmerman.
Speaking.
Hi, it's Brian Kropp calling. How are you doing this evening?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Not too bad. Hey, I have a couple questions. I'll be real quick. It's about tonight's meeting on the agenda. And I figured I'd call you first since, of course, you are my ward councilman. Are you familiar with Ordinance 2021-02?
Yes, I am. Just tune into the meeting and see how things go tonight. Thank you.
Hey, Adam, did you happen to author that legislation by any chance?
Just tune into the meeting tonight and see how things go.
Just a simple yes or no answer would be fantastic.
You'll get your answers at the meeting tonight, sir.
You'll tell me if you authored this legislation tonight?
You will see what you need to know at the meeting tonight.
So again, as usual, you can't answer or refuse to answer basic, simple questions in reference to a meeting that's going to take place tonight about our town. I'm literally asking you a simple question about town. It's not personal. It's just a question about legislation. It's an ordinance. You're my council member. I'm talking to you right now.
Are the names on there? What else do you need to know?
The names of what? Sponsor? Sponsor doesn't mean author. Did you author this? Did you write this legislation and present it to anyone?
You'll get your answers tonight.
So you will answer that if you authored this legislation? It's just got hung up on by my councilman. So that was my first phone call. And Adam, you still have not answered if you authored this piece of legislation. I know you won't answer because you didn't author this legislation. None of the council members, I don't personally believe any of the council members actually authored this legislation. So I'll move on to my next phone call. This is Mr. Alberini, and I don't see him. I think he ditched out. I don't see him on here anywhere, so I don't know where he is. But I'm going to play his. I called him on his cell phone, and he answered.
Hey, Mr. Kropp, can you hold on a second? And
I sure can.
I'll keep your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lynch, if you can check on this for me. Mr. Alberini sent me a text that he's been cut off, and I don't know how he would rejoin the meeting.
Yeah, he would have to click back in. We did not cut him off, so that would mean he's got a Wi-Fi issue.
Okay, yeah, exactly. We didn't cut him off, so he's going to have to click on or do whatever he needs to do. So hopefully he's watching.
Sure.
Mr. Kropp, go ahead and go back in. You got about 1 minute.
Okay, it's this. I'll try to wrap up as quick as I can. This was the second phone call. This, again, is my council representative, who's my at-large representative, who I called on his phone to ask him because I was just hung up on by my council person, my first ward council person. So this is the next person I called and spoke to. He answered his phone as well. So you can hear how his response.
Hey, don't call my cell phone. Bye.
Councilman Alberini. Oh my goodness. So that was my call to Councilman Alberini, who is my representative, who's my at-large councilman. So that was the response I got from him. Not hello, not Mr. Kropp, pleasure to talk to you. He told me not to call his cell phone and hung up on me. So then I'll move on to the last one, and this was not my council person, but I figured, what the hey, I'm 0 for 2, so I'll go 0 for 3. So here's my phone call to Mrs. Braymeyer, who I'm glad to see that you're awake, Ms. Braymeyer.
Hello?
Good evening, Councilwoman Braymeyer.
Pardon me?
Is this Councilwoman Braymeyer?
Yes?
Hi, good evening. How are you doing this evening?
Who's calling, please?
This is Brian Kropp calling. She hung up on me. Oh my God. So 3 for 3, the 3 council members have voted for that for the AMP-T approval, and who pretty much vote in tandem every single time, couldn't give me a straight answer. And I would ask all 3 of you, the one of them, of course, one of you is gone. Terry, the one who just told me not to call his cell phone, is gone. Did any of you actually author any legislation on the agenda tonight? Can any of you answer that?
Okay.
Ms.
Now
Fletcher,
that
did either
we got
of you
through
author those legislation? The last thing I'll stop right there. That should be enough. I hope the public sees this. I hope news stations see this and hear this. This is what we have to deal with in Newton Falls. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the time. I do appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go to Mr. Stenson. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and give your name, address. You have 3 minutes once you're unmuted.
Tim Stinson, 253 Arlington. Got a couple things. First of all, just going back to the electric sale or pending sale, you guys went into a motion. You guys actually had a motion on the floor before you guys motioned. John did put on before, and you kind of tabled it, Mr. Mayor, there for a second. I believe Mr. Bariak wanted to table the motion, so that was a pending motion before the actual motion, just as an FYI. Thank you for at least thinking the March 8th town hall is a good idea. I'm glad to at least see that coming. Mr. Mayor, I like your idea of having 2 and maybe another council to help input city council's decision there. So I think that's a great idea. I will say in that same newsletter, Mr. Lynch actually did say that way back when that there was a phase 2 in the works. It was at the very end of the newsletter, but it was in there. So, I'm a fair guy. I have to give credit where credit is due, and that was definitely in there. Mr. Lynch also said in one of his addresses that paying off debt is a good idea. This is something new. Listen, we've had lots of things, and over the last year, we've gone in $2.5–3 million worth of debt with various things. So, hey, if this is your new way of thinking, I'm all for it. But it's very inconsistent from where you've been over the past year or so. Mr. Lynch, you said that in the ordinance it says $3 million, but you said here tonight that it's $4 million. This ordinance is nowhere near an actual contract. There is no rates. Mr. Bariak asked what the specific rates were. You just said it's lower than what our regional suppliers are. Hey, listen, that's great. But, I was glad to hear you at least say that it was some kind of ongoing payment, if you will. But that's nowhere in here. So please, guys, we got to get things right. Somebody said it. If it was the mayor, I don't remember. Voting not like Congress, knowing what's in bills. This is something I've been saying for quite some time. We got to get better. You guys are better than Congress, so just please do that. Another thing, Mr. Lynch, you said anticipate and hope. Those aren't numbers, sir. We have to have factual numbers to be able to rely on. Hope and anticipation, not going to cut it. Math is math. Numbers are real. They're factual. Don't know what else to say on that. My last point, Mr. Lynch, you said half of 1% or 1% of half or something is what the utilities or the assets that we're selling, correct? How much of our actual power runs through that 0.5%? I'm willing to bet it's 100% of our actual power flows through those transmission lines. These are actual substations, and they're called transmission lines for a reason, because they transmit all of our power through those 4 or 5 substations. So if someone can please answer that, and if it's at the town hall, it's at the town hall, but I'm willing to bet that all of our power flows through those substations.
Okay, I'll have to cut you off after that point, Mr. Stenson, if you've finished it up. I think
I'm done, sir. Thank you very much.
And just so everybody knows, I see your hands. I got 3 people waiting with hands up, and I think the first one is Miss Neisel here. So I'm going to unmute you, and if now you unmute yourself, give your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Laura Nahaskell, and I'm at 227 North Center. This one goes out to the city manager, Mr. Lynch. During your town hall, when you go over this, there are some things I'd like for you to maybe jot down and bring up.
Sure.
One, what is AMP Ohio's end game? Okay, like what are they going to be doing with this? What does AMP get out of purchasing this equipment for $4 million? Because a company doesn't purchase something for $4 million without expecting profit in return. So and profit is not $150 a year for us to utilize or transmit. What's their end game? That's what my biggest concern is because we're selling, even if it's 0.5% of what we own as a city, that's still something that we own as a city. And if 100% of our power goes through that, what happens if they decide that they're going to change their rates on us? So what I guess my biggest thing is, where are they going to make up that $4 million that they're going to be paying us for? So that's my biggest concern. A big company doesn't go out and buy something without expecting some type of profit. Whether they're nonprofit or not, they still want a profit. So, but thank you. That was all the questions I had.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to, I don't see a video for Julie Lemon. I'm not sure if she's there. She's got her hand up. Miss Lemon, if you're there.
I'm here.
Okay, so you're unmuted now. So go ahead and give your name, your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. This is for City Manager Lynch. I called your office on February 18th to complain about snow and ice right by Lyle Waddell's house on East River Road, where 534 turns on to East River Road. That's city property. When I spoke to Miss King, she just dismissed immediately what I said when I'm trying to explain to her that I nearly slid my car off the road into the ditch. She immediately said that the state salts 534. That's fine and dandy. I wasn't calling about 534. I was calling about the beginning of East River Road. Then I didn't want to call back. I just wanted someone to go out and ice. And salty ice. That's all I wanted. Because it was like that when I went to school for myself and took my daughter to school. 4 hours later, I come home. It's in the same condition. And again, that was on February 18th of this year. I then, on last Thursday, received multiple messages from City Manager Lynch telling me, have been leaving you phone messages to call me with no response. 330-872-0806. Funny thing is, I checked my phone records with my phone company. You never called once. And you never, ever returned the email when I told you. I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't receive any messages from you. I even checked my voicemail and told you what messages I had in the last 2 days. Then you turn around and said, I will tomorrow at work. I'm asking you what number you called. I never received the message. I have the info in my office where I'll be tomorrow morning. That was 5 days ago, sir. You've never gotten back to me. So my suggestion to the city is someone needs to check into this. 2, Mr. Lynch, you got to take a grammar course, because if that's how you send emails, this city's in trouble. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there was a Jeremy Groff here. I don't see him anymore, and I don't see anybody else with their hand raised, and I'm not an expert on this, so if anybody else sees anybody with a hand up, let me know. If not, we're going to be done with public comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could be recognized for a minute on that question you just asked.
Okay.
Thank you. I've checked all 3 screens. There are multiple screens when you are in the gallery mode, and Mr. Groff is not on any of the 3 screens. There are no more hands left at all.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and we'll go to closing remarks. And we'll start off with the first ward, if Mr. Zimmerman has something.
Yes, sir. Just like to say, we had a lot of positive discussions here in this meeting tonight. It's all kind of seeming like we all have our work cut out for us on this AMP project. We all have a lot of homework to do. We have a lot of things to look at. Hopefully we'll all be looking at that seriously coming up. Just the first reading passed. We did not pass any legislation on that tonight, just only the first reading. So hopefully we'll move on from there and be able to make educated decisions. I'd like to say congratulations again to both the boys and the girls basketball teams. Unfortunately, the girls are done, but wish best of luck to the boys going forward. Congratulations to Bill George again for his many years of service with the fire department. And I'd like to also say some special congratulations to Karen Rutan. It's people like her that really make this city what it is. People willing to go that extra mile to help out somebody in need to get something done. I hate ending a meeting on a negative note, but I just kind of hope that people learn a lesson tonight, you know, just the way I've been treated in these phone calls being played on the air, that this is a person that is striving to be on council. I just hope everyone learns a lesson at my expense possibly tonight, that this is something that can be expected going forward if this person is elected to a position.
Point of order.
Where at any point that
Point of order, sir.
At any
You
time.
have no right to demean anybody. Point of order.
Look who's talking.
Just continue, or are you finished up then?
All done, sir. Thank you.
All right. Ward 3.
It should be out of order.
Ward 2.
Miss Spletzer. Miss Spletzer?
Oh, you're going to me?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
You're correct. Or hold on. Yeah, I'm wrong there. Mr. Boriak, Ward 2.
I'd like to close on a couple notes tonight. I tried to get some answers. I get the runaround. I have never had any paperwork on anything about how much we're going to lower the rates, how much, what it is going to benefit, what the cost is going to be to us. I haven't seen the $150 is all it's going to cost us. I haven't seen any of this. We are entering in tonight give him the authority to enter into a contract that we know nothing about. When I go buy a car and somebody say, here, sign the contract, I said, well, I didn't even see what I'm buying yet. How can he do that? But you know what? It goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, to Mr. Zimmerman. Mr. Zimmerman, this water has never been deemed unsafe. As a matter of fact, we have one of the lowest lead rates in that end. Now, if you want to get the safe water, let's get the township and let's get the commissioners to take their responsibility. And if not, let's get the health board in here and make them put septic tanks in. I got my answer tonight when Mr. Lynch said, well, we're going to take the money that we sell the electric department off for. It's up to council where they do with it. Oh, if we put it in the general fund, where would that money go maybe? To finance the Scott Street School project? I don't know, but I know one thing. This has got to come to an end in this town. When I've been here 71 years, and the only thing we've had is our electric, and for what we're giving up for the cost advantage, shame on us. And it hasn't even been determined yet that we got a fair price. Who helped Mr. Lynch negotiate all this? Mr. Waddell said he's been working on it for a long time. Economic development. Who helped Mr. Lynch on this? I didn't get that answer either. I always get a roundabout about everything but what I ask. That I get when I ask, what's a snowman made out of? Instead of staying snow, it's, well, he had a purple vest on and he had a couple coal eyes. You never get a straight answer. And I'm not going to sit back here from now on and sell the people, the good people of this community out over a few bucks for somebody that thinks he has some kind of delusion of grandeur, that he wants to stroke his own ego. Now, if you want to give him that power, Mr. Zimmerman, fine. But you will be accountable just like Mr. Waddell was accountable. You will be accountable, sir, for selling the community out. I'm not a visitor here. I've been here 71 years. I know the people, and I'm not walking across the street with my head down to anybody in this town. Now, I'm sorry I'm getting so abrupt, but it's getting to be almost absurd what's going on up here. And
Okay,
Mr. Fritz, And to Mr. Fritz, if you want to give an opinion, that's one thing. And it's all right, but you let it go 2 years, sir. No wonder the paper said that you smack with favoritism. I'm not saying it. They said you smack with favoritism. To me, it sounds like favoritism when all of a sudden, after 2 years, you go ahead and change your opinion. Well, thank you, sir. But I don't know what took you so long. You'll have to defend yourself on that with the public. To everybody, I hope they make the town hall meeting, which of course is going to be Zoom again, because you know what I mean. That way, the people we won't have the city hall open so that people could come up. But I hope everybody's going to have to stand for their vote, because I'm not giving our electric away. I'm not giving any of our utilities. They tried this a few years back. They wanted to let the water department go to Aqua Ohio. Well, ask Hubbard and Canfield how well they're doing with that now. They wish they could get out of it. So all this stuff that's rushed and rammed through, for what reason? We're making a profit with our electricity, which I didn't get an answer to, how much money we're making. Our rate structure is structured to include a little bit of debt. How much if we do pay off the debt, and how much is the debt, and how much Mr. Lynn says we're going to pay off the debt. I didn't get an answer on how much the debt was. I never get an answer. I can't, should I wait and wait and wait and wait and wait? If the public can't see what's going on, shame on the public. Because there's a lot of good people in this town, and I had a lot of calls. And a lot of people are upset about this, and they have a right to be. That's all I'm going to say tonight. I appreciate it. The time.
Okay, Ms. Bletzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
Excuse me a minute, Mr. Klein. Mr. Alberini is back on, but he doesn't have any videos. He needs unmuted when you get to him.
Okay, I don't see his name.
He's on the second page.
All right, I don't even know how to get to the second page.
I'm looking for it. Oh, Your Honor, you're supposed to be unmute, but I can unmute him if you give me permission.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Terry, I'm clicking ask to unmute and nothing's happening. Can you? There you go.
It's not his turn,
Terry,
it's my
Terry,
turn.
go ahead.
Yeah.
It's not his turn, it's my turn.
Well, I just want to check to see if he's unmuted, and then it'll be Ms. Bletzer's turn. Okay,
yeah,
Ms. Bletzer.
He's unmuted.
Ms. Bletzer's up for Ward 3.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to just piggyback off of a couple things Mr. Bariak talked about how we never get answers. And, you know, it doesn't matter if I call the city manager, I'm told, oh, I've been told not to engage with you. If I call the law director, he says, you need to call the city manager. You know, I just feel like that's all I get is nothing but runaround. And, you know, I feel that I'm being denied access to information that I feel is pertinent for me to do my job. You know, I got threatening emails from the law director. I've got, you know, I showed up at City Hall. I've got the city manager threatening to call the chief of police on me because I was there to get some information. And I would just like to remind the city manager and the law director, I think they need a refresher course on the organizational chart. Take a look at the organizational chart. Neither one of you have any right to deny me any information that I feel is pertinent to do my job. Thank you, Mayor. I'm done.
Okay. Ms. Braymeyer, do you have anything for Ward 4?
No, I really don't. I think enough has been said. Defaming people, you know, and then it's okay if the other people do defame you. Not nice. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Alberini, do you have anything at large?
Mr. Alberini, your microphone is activated now. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind going out of order and making your remarks, I'll try to raise him another way so we can get him back on.
Okay. I think Mr. Alberini is just giving me a paid commercial on why Zoom meetings are not very good. And that was just off
Thank
the
you,
cuff
Mayor.
there. But the fact of the matter is I'm hoping that each individual council and community and stuff tunes in and is a part of the town hall meeting, which is going to be next Monday, I believe at 6 o'clock. And tonight, obviously, I allowed Mr. Boriak to have some extended time. I knew that he had a lot of questions. I didn't know what his questions were up front, but I knew that they were questions that people in the community wanted answered. And it could have been anybody asked the question, and I would have given you plenty of time, because I think that these are important. As I said, I have grandchildren that grow up in this community, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right things for them. And that's why I'm the mayor, selfishly, for my own grandkids and your grandkids.
Mhm.
I have Mr. Alberini whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I would hope that we would use this meeting responsibly, and then when we go into the second reading, I hope we would be responsible there, and that we don't just, I hope that individuals here haven't decided ahead of time already what you're going to vote on that, yes or no, that you take a serious look. I mean, it comes out of your pocket too. I'm a citizen here. I have to pay these bills. I don't want to go and find out that we make a bad decision, but if it's a good decision, then I'm all for it. So I would just ask that each of us that we're responsible with this, and we to realize the responsibility we have and the promises that we make, and that we do diligence, that we can walk in any place in this community and stare anybody in the eye and be okay with the decisions we've made. And that's all I have. Mr. Alberini, do you have anything for the at-large council?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay, sir? I apologize. I lost my connection here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. First of all, I got to say that I'm very humble and grateful to the citizens of Newton Falls to be on city council. This is my 8th year. We've had some challenging times that we've been able to overcome. For the most part tonight, except with the ending phone calls, very good meeting. I believe a lot of things were accomplished. We don't always agree. We don't always agree to. Sometimes we agree to disagree, and we have to move on from that. That's the biggest thing right there. The AMP Ohio project, we did discuss that several years ago. I remember specifically that all of us myself and Mr. Bariak were there, and we just got some details tonight. I don't think no one's ramming that down anybody's throat. That was the first thing. The second thing is, I believe that there was legislation sponsored back in April, May of 2020 to reduce our residential and our consumer and business rates for the citizens of Newton Falls during COVID. It was brought up by Mr. Bariak. So I guess I got thrown a curveball on where we're going tonight with kind of saying no to this potentially with AMP. So I believe that's going to take place. I sure hope it does. If we can get a windfall, I want to emphasize one thing: we're not selling our utilities off, as what's been said and what's been spread through the community. I have not seen any evidence of that. I believe that David has been straightforward with us through this whole process the last couple of years. I think the new council people need to be taken or brought up to date on what's going on. And I think it's going to be good for the community again if a windfall does take place. And lastly, I feel bad for Mr. Crop. And yeah, I didn't take his phone call. You know, I have a boss here at home, my wonderful wife of almost 40 years, doesn't want Mr. Crop calling our residents because of some of the things he has unfortunately posted on Facebook about her husband that she knows not true, and doesn't want him calling my cell phone because of the juvenile behavior that's taken place. That's really sad. I believe Brian's a good guy. Mm-hmm. I believe a lot of folks who call in are good folks, but there's no reason to, when you call somebody, you call your councilman, there's no reason. You're not Jack Windsor to record individuals without them being noted that they're being recorded to try to set them up to fail at something. So I think we're better on that as a community. I hope Mr. Crop is, and some of the folks that call in would not do that. I would never do that to anybody. But Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time and effort. And as the good Lord says, and our moms always say, we'll get through all this stuff. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. City Manager, are you there?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I got a question for you as well as council real quick before we adjourn. Just something that popped in my mind is we have a town hall meeting that we talked about Monday for the AMP situation here. And I don't know if, I know my wife's usually pretty good at this, but I don't know if anybody knows the weather forecast. I had a possible idea. How about if we look to hold the meeting outside so that we can have it in person? I think this is a very important meeting, and I'd like to be able to have people from the community be able to weigh in and ask questions of us. So I don't know what anybody here's thought is on that. We could go right to the basketball courts and put some metal chairs up or whatever. I don't know.
Only if it was 80.
Yeah.
I'll check into that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah, let's check into that and get back and let people know this week as soon as possible.
Sure.
And that's all we have then. And so do we have anybody that wants to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, Tessa, Mr. Boriak. So we got 3 of them. So let's go ahead and call for a roll call.
Blitzer,
Yes.
Boriak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Raymeyer,
Yes.
Alberini.
Yes.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, big.